Welcome and thank you for being here. There's no need to do anything at all, simply allow my voice to be a soft companion as you begin to drift toward the quiet, and perhaps unsettling, story of a Roman feast. In our time together tonight, there is nothing to examine, nothing to understand, only the gentle rhythm of a story about a kind of hunger that could never be satisfied. As you begin to settle, just one gentle thought. If this space feels like a comfort to you, you might consider a soft tap on the like or subscribe button, but only if that thought feels as effortless as a quiet breath. Your rest is what truly matters, and if you feel so inclined, you could let me know in the comments what city you're listening from, and what time it is for you. It's nice to know where these quiet stories land in the world. And so, find that gentle darkness in your room, perhaps with a soft blanket pulled a little closer, as we begin our slow drift into tonight's tale. The late afternoon sun of Rome cuts sharp, golden rectangles onto the mosaic floor of your private courtyard. It's the quietest part of the day, a time when the city seems to hold its breath before the evening's fever breaks. You're reclining on a simple wooden couch, the air thick with the scent of jasmine and the faint, ever-present city smell of wood smoke and damp stone. It's a moment of peace, a fragile one. And, of course, that is the moment it is broken. Not by a loud noise, but by a subtle shift in the air. A shadow falls across the tiles. You don't need to open your eyes to know who it is. It's Laura, your most trusted servant, a quiet Greek woman whose footsteps are as soft as falling dust. She stands a respectful distance away, waiting for you to acknowledge her. You can already feel it, the prickle of unwelcome duty. You sigh, a soft sound, and your eyes flutter open. In her hands, she holds a small, rectangular object. It's a diptych. Two thin panels of polished linden wood, bound together with a fine leather cord. You know immediately what it is. An invitation. But, in your world, an invitation from the right person or the wrong one feels less like a gift and more like a summons. It has a physical weight that hints at the social weight it carries. Lyra steps forward and presents it to you. You take it. The wood is smooth and cool against your fingertips. The outside is plain, but the cord is tied in a specific, intricate knot, and pressed into a small lump of beeswax as a seal. You don't need to look closely. You know the signet. A snarling boar, head down, ready to charge. It's the emblem of Gaius Sulpicius Macer, a man whose political ambitions are matched only by the legendary, brutal extravagance of his dinner parties. A little knot of dread tightens in your stomach. Not a party, a performance, an entrance test. With a shake of your thumbnail, you break the wax seal. The small crack is the only sound in the courtyard. You unfold the two wooden leaves. The inside is hollowed out and filled with a layer of darkened, almost black beeswax. Scratched into the wax with a sharp stylus are the words of the invitation. The Latin is formal, precise, elegant. Now, here is a little secret that historians still whisper about in hushed tones. It's a matter of some debate whether a woman of your status would have read this herself. Some women of the elite were highly educated, fluent in Greek and Latin, managing vast estates and political correspondence. Others were kept as beautiful, illiterate symbols of their husband's wealth. You are somewhere in the middle. You can read, of course, but the act of it is laborious. It's a chore. And besides, that's what Nairi is for. You hand the heavy tablet to her. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, scan the message in an instant. She reads it aloud, her voice slow and melodic, which almost, but not quite, masks the demanding nature of the words. Gaius Sulpicius Macer requests the honor of your presence at the 8th hour on the eve of the Columns of May, a celebration of his recent, minor political appointment. It's all phrased in the language of friendly leisure, but the subtext is as clear as the summer sky. This is not a request. To refuse would be a calculated insult, a social maneuver that your husband would have to answer for, in a city built on webs of favor and obligation. A dinner invitation is just another thread in that web. You can either help weave it, or you can get tangled. He is celebrating his appointment to oversee the grand ole. Lyra adds, lowering the tablet. Her own little piece of household intelligence. A minor post, but one that puts him in the public eye. And that's what this is all about. Being seen. Gaius will not be celebrating a promotion. He will be promoting himself. And you, along with dozens of other carefully selected guests, are to be the props in his one-night play. You will be seated. You will be fed. And you will be expected to radiate an effortless joy that you absolutely will not feel. You think of the last feast you attended at his villa. The memory isn't of laughter or good conversation. It's a physical memory, a feeling of pressure behind your ribs, the cloying sweetness of honey-soaked dormice, the acidic tang of wine that was served to warm and into greater quantity. You remember the face of a young senator, pale and sweating, as he forced down a third helping of peacock roasted in its own feathers, a dish that was, and this is a historical fact, far more about the bizarre presentation than the actual taste. It was often dry and tough, but you had to eat it, and you had to smile. I will need a reply, Naira says softly, her gaze steady. You look at the wax tablet still in her hand. A beautiful, simple object. A slab of wood and a smear of beeswax. But right now, it feels like a stone. You already feel tired. A deep, soul-level weariness. You know what this night will demand of you, physically and emotionally. It will be a marathon of consumption. A gauntlet of enforced delight. You push yourself up from the couch. The golden sunlight seems to mock your mood. Inform the messenger. You say, your voice flat. I will be honored to attend. Lyra bows her head and retreats. Her footsteps once again silent. You are left alone in the courtyard. The scent of jasmine now seeming sickly and sweet. The golden invitation is gone. But its weight remains, a heavy promise settling in your gut. The performance has already begun. The decision, though not truly a decision, has been made. The sun has dipped lower, bleeding purple and orange across the sky. And the quiet peace of your courtyard has evaporated. Now begins the ritual of construction. It is time to build the woman who will attend Gaius Sulpicius Macer's feast. She is not you. Not the you who enjoys the simple warmth of the sun on her skin. She is an entirely different creature. You are in your cubiculum, your private chamber. The air, once light, is now heavy with the scents of rose oil and hot iron. 2 servants, Lyra and a younger girl named Doria, move around you with a practiced, silent efficiency. This isn't a pampering session. It's a strategic preparation, like soldiers arming for a siege. And you are both the fortress and the precious treasure it is designed to protect or perhaps to display. First comes the bath, not alone, lingering soap, but a functional cleansing with scented oils that leave your skin slick and perfumed. Then, you are seated before a polished bronze mirror. Its reflection is soft, a little wrought, kinder than the silvered glass mirrors that are just beginning to appear in the wealthiest of homes. Even in this gentle distortion, you can see the weariness in your own eyes. Lyra begins to work on your face. A paste of fine barley flour and butter is applied, meant to soothe the skin and cover any blemishes. After it's wiped away, the real mask begins. A fine white powder, cerusa, is dusted over your face, neck, and arms. It's made from white lead, a fact you try not to think about too much. It gives your skin a smooth, ghostly pallor that is considered the height of aristocratic beauty, a sign that you do not toil under the sun. You close your eyes as she applies it, the finder setting into every pore, creating a blank, perfect canvas. A little reed ochre for your cheeks and lips, just a hint, and a bit of carefully prepared soot to darken your eyebrows and line your eyes. Then comes the most arduous part, your hair. For this, a specialist has been summoned. She is the Ornot Rex, a woman whose entire life is dedicated to the impossibly complex art of patrician hairstyles. She is old, her fingers null but surprisingly strong. She works with a collection of bone pins, ivory combs, and hot curling tongs that hiss as they are heated over a small brazier. Your hair is pulled, twisted, and braided with a severity that makes your scalp ache. This is where a truly niche bit of Roman high fashion comes into play, a little trick you all use to achieve the towering, elaborate styles seen in imperial statues. You need more hair than any one person naturally possesses. The ornate Rix seamlessly works in false braids and curls, and the most prized hairpieces, a strange and morbid secret of the trade, comes from the north. They are the captured hair of German and Gallic women. Their blonde and red locks shorn and sold in the city's markets to adorn the heads of Roman ladies who covet their exotic shades. A thick, honey blonde braid, once belonging to a woman you will never know, is pinned and woven into your own dark hair, a silent trophy of a distant war. Historians, by the way, still debate just how much personal choice a woman like you had in these matters. Did you get to pick the style? Did you tell the ornate Rix, a little higher on the crown today, I'm feeling festive? Or was your appearance dictated entirely by your husband, a carefully curated projection of his status and traditional values? You look at your emerging reflection in the bronze and you honestly don't know the answer. You feel less like a person making choices and more like a statue being carved. The 100th hairpin finds its place in your scalp, a tiny, sharp reminder of your duty. Finally, the construction of your hair is complete. A tower of gleaming, intricate braids, held fast by a small army of pins. It's heavy. It forces you to hold your head at a regal, slightly unnatural angle. Now for the clothes, the armor. First, a simple, soft linen tunica interior, an underdress. Over this, Lyra and Doria carefully draped the stole. This is the main garment, the mark of a respectable Roman matron, but yours is not made of humble wool. It is silk, not the thick, heavy silk from the Far East, but a finer, almost translucent version from the Greek island of Kos. It's scandalously expensive and, if the light hits it just right, scandalously revealing. The fabric is dyed a deep saffron yellow, a color of celebration. It falls in precise, calculated folds, held at the shoulders by two heavy golden brooches, or fibula, each set with a raw, unfaceted emerald. A wide, embroidered belt is tied just beneath your breasts, accentuating your figure, before the rest of the fabric is draped and pinned around your waist. The layers are many, and they are warm. You are already beginning to feel suffocated. Last comes the jewelry. This is not about adornment. It's about broadcasting wealth. A heavy gold necklace, worked to look like twisted vines, is settled around your neck. Its coolness is a brief shock against your powdered skin. Pearl earrings, shaped like drops of milk, are fixed to your lobes. On your arms, they slide golden serpents, their heads meeting on your wrist, their tiny ruby eyes seeming to glitter with a life of their own. Each piece is a weight, a beautiful, golden miracle. You stand. The silk of the stole whispers against the floor, the gold ceiling softly. You catch your reflection in the bronze mirror again. The woman staring back is pale and perfect, her hair a magnificent sculpture, her eyes dark and mysterious. She is draped in saffron and dripping with gold and jewels. She is a masterpiece of artifice and wealth. She is impressive, she is beautiful, and she is a complete stranger. The armor is on. The cage is locked. You take a slow, careful breath. The first of many you will have to consciously manage tonight. It's time to go to war. The air outside your villa walls is cool now, carrying the first real chill of the Roman evening. The transformation is complete. You stand in the atrium, the heart of your home, waiting. The shallow pool in the center, the impervium, reflects the flickering torchlight from the walls, making the water's surface look like rippling black oil. Your husband is late, as usual, probably closing a deal, or more likely, starting a new one. For burly household slaves appear, their bare feet silent on the mosaic tiles. They carry your transport. The letter CA, a contained litter. It's your bubble. Your mobile island of privilege that will carry you through the chaos of the city. It's an elegant construction of cedar wood and bronze fittings, with fine linen curtains dyed the same saffron as your stole. They set it down gently. You hear the decisive click of your husband's sandals on the pavement behind you. Marcus. He appears out of the shadows, already dressed in a fresh, snow-white toga with the broad purple stripe of his senatorial rank. He smells of cloves and wine. He looks you over. His gaze quickened appraising, like a merchant checking goods. He doesn't say you look beautiful. He doesn't mean to. Your appearance is a reflection of him, and he is satisfied with his reflection. He simply nods. It is time. You step into the litter, settling yourself carefully onto the plush cushions. It's a practiced movement, designed to not disturb a single fold of your dress or a single hair on your aching head. Marcus gets in the other side. The curtains are drawn, plunging you into a dim, swaying intimacy. The four slaves grunt in unison as they lift the litter onto their shoulders. The journey begins. And the moment you pass through the gates of your own home, the reality of Rome floods your senses. Even through the linen curtains. The city is a living thing, and at night, it's a beast. The serene, orderly, perfumed world of your villa vanishes, replaced by a wall of sound and smell. First, the noise, the rhythmic tramp of your bearer's feet on the uneven paving stones is the baseline, the metronome for the city's cacophony. You hear the rumble of iron-wheeled carts illegal during the day to ease congestion, but now making up for lost time with a vengeance. Their clatter echoes off the towering brick walls of the apartment blocks. The insult, you hear shouting. Not angry shouting, just the normal volume of Roman conversation. A merchant hawking roasted chickpeas. The laughter of a group of soldiers gambling on a corner. A woman yelling from a third-story window at her husband in the street below. Dogs bark. A lot of dogs. And then, the smell. Oh, the smell. There is no polite way to put this. Rome, for all its marble temples and grand forums, is a city that stinks. It's a rich, complex, layered aroma that you've been breathing your whole life, but never truly get used to. You smell the smoke from thousands of cooking fires. The cloying sweetness of cheap incense burning at a roadside shrine. The metallic scent of blood from a butcher shop that hasn't test-wooled its floors properly. But beneath it all is the pervasive, inescapable smell of human waste. This is a historical detail that is often glossed over in favor of aqueducts and clean-to gas. While the wealthy like you have rudimentary latrines that are occasionally flushed with running water, the vast majority of the city's 1 million inhabitants do not. They use pots, which are then unceremoniously emptied out of the nearest window into the street below. There are laws against this, of course. The lawyers even have a special term for it. Debunked. But laws are one thing, and a third-floor walk down to a public latrine in the middle of the night is another. The street is the sewer. You sway in your litter, the thin curtains your only shield. You are a jewel being carried through a dumpster. The contrast is staggering. Inside your perfumed bubble, you are a vision of impossible cleanliness and wealth. Just inches away, on the other side of the fabric, is the grimy, visceral reality of the city that fuels your lifestyle. You pass a cookshop, and the greasy smell of frying sausages briefly overpowers everything else. You pass a fuller's workshop, where they clean to gas with stale urine. And the sharp, ammoniac stench makes you wrinkle your nose. Your husband, Marcus, seems entirely unfazed. He is discussing the price of Egyptian wheat with a grim intensity, as if he can't hear or smell any of it. Or more likely, he has simply trained himself not to. This is the great, unspoken paradox of your life. Your luxury is not separate from this filth. It is built upon it. The same city that produces this overwhelming sensory assault also produces the wealth that pays for your silk, your emeralds, your saffron dye. The food you are about to gorge yourself on was carted down these same foul streets. The slaves who will serve you sleep in cramped, airless rooms in the very insul you are now passing. The bearers take a sharp turn, and the litter tilts precariously. You put out a hand to brace yourself. Through a small gap in the curtains, you catch a glimpse of the street. A child in a ragged tunic chasing a stray chicken. The flickering light of an oil lamp in a dark doorway, illuminating a face lined with exhaustion. A splash in a puddle nearby that you know, with absolute certainty, is not rainwater. You pull the curtain shut. It's better not to look. It's better to retreat into the swaying, dim-lit world of your litter. To focus on the heavy gold snakes on your wrists and the ache in your scalp. You are on your way to a palace of sterile, manicured opulence, a place designed to make you forget the world you are currently moving through. But the smell still seeps through the curtains. It clings to the air, a little reminder of the real Rome. A city that is glorious and brilliant, but which you must, at all costs, hold at arm's length, lest its grime get on your pretty silk dress. The litter sways on, a golden cage rattling through the dark, magnificent, and utterly filthy heart of the world. The rhythmic swaying of the litter, which had become a nauseating metronome to the city's chaos, finally slows. The bearers' steps become more measured, their grunts softer. The cacophony of the street recedes, replaced by a more refined, yet no less intimidating, sound, the murmur of other wealthy people. You have arrived. The litter is set down with a final, gentle bump. One of your bearers draws back the saffron curtain. For a moment, you are blinded. The entrance to Gaius Sulpicius Macer's villa is a blaze of light in the Roman night. Dozens of tall bronze torches line the pathway, their flames leaping on dancing, casting a warm, flickering glow that makes everything seem more dramatic, more alive. The light glints off the polished armor of the guards. And there are guards, not the usual household slaves standing by the door. These are serious men, large, grim-faced Gauls with scarred cheeks and chainmail vests over their tunics, leaning on tall spears. They are a declaration. This is not just a home. This is a fortress. This is the seat of a powerful man. Their presence is designed to do two things simultaneously: to protect the host from the city outside, and to subtly intimidate the guests as they arrive. It makes you feel both safe and incredibly small. You take your husband's offered hand and step out of the litter. Your fate, clad in soft leather sandals with delicate gold straps, touch down on a mosaic of breathtaking complexity. It's a scene of a lion hunt. The tiny tiles forming images of such brutal realism that you almost feel you should step around the dying lion at your feet. Every single detail of this entrance, from the burning torches to the silent guards to the violent artwork, is a calculated projection of power and wealth. It's the first course of the evening, served before you've even taken a bite. A slave, dressed in a tunic of spotless white linen, steps forward and bows. Here's the Utrian Sis, the chief steward of the household. Welcome, Senator, he says to your husband, his voice smooth and practiced. Welcome, Domida. He turns to you with a slight bow. He doesn't need to ask for your names. He knows. It is his job to know every important face in Rome. You walk past the silent guards, through a towering doorway of carved cedar. The sheer size of the door is, again, part of the point. It's built on a scale meant for gods, not mortals, forcing you to feel a sense of awe as you pass through it. You step into the atrium, and for a moment, the sheer opulence is dizzying. This is not the quiet, modest atrium of your own home. This is a public statement. The space is vast, open to the night sky above. A massive imperium in the center is not filled with water, but with rose petals floating in perfumed oil, their scent thick and almost suffocating. The walls are covered in frescoes, vibrant paintings depicting scenes from Greek mythology. You see Hercules wrestling the Nemean lion, Lydian the swan, the abduction of Persephone. They are masterfully done, the colors so vivid they seem to wet. And they are, you notice, all scenes of struggle, conquest, and violation, a subtle thematic choice. Marble statues of Greek gods and Roman ancestors stare down from pedestals in every corner, their painted eyes seeming to follow you as you walk. Historians love to point out that while we see these statues as pure white marble today, the Romans painted them in bright, almost garish colors. The Apollo in the corner would have had golden hair, red lips, and startlingly blue eyes. It was a far cry from the serene, classical aesthetic reimagined. It was loud. It was colorful. It was, like everything else here, designed to overwhelm. Other guests are arriving, their voices echoing in the grand space. You see senators you know, wealthy merchants whose fortunes rival your own, and their wives, all armored in their own silks and jewels, their hair sculpted into competing towers of artifice. There's a quiet rustling of fabric, the clinking of gold, a low murmur of greetings. It's a sea of pale, powdered faces and forced, bright smiles. You feel a familiar pressure to perform. You must look impressed, but not too impressed, which would mark you as unsophisticated. You must look at ease, as if you belong in a space this grand, even as every nerve ending is screaming that you are an intruder in another man's temple of ego. The Erenesis returns to your side. The host awaits you in the triclinium. He says, his voice a low pair, "If you would follow me." He leads you and Marcus away from the main atrium, down a wide, colonnaded corridor. The floor here is another mosaic, this one famous throughout the city. It's a depiction of an unswept floor, or a Sorrotios oikos. It looks, at first glance, like the floor is littered with the debris of a feast. Fish bones, fruit pits, nutshells, even a tiny, perfectly rendered mouse nibbling on a walnut. It's a mind-bending like liver piece of art, a still life of garbage, and a famous showcase of the owner's sophisticated taste and immense wealth. To be able to afford a floor that so masterfully imitates filth is the ultimate luxury. You step carefully over the mosaic lobster claw and the discarded chicken leg. You are walking on a masterpiece of simulated trash on your way to a dinner where you will be forced to create the real thing. The irony is so thick you could almost taste it. The corridor opens up, and you hear the sound you've been dreading. Not loud laughter, but the low, rumbling conversation of a feast already in its early stages. The air grows warmer, thick with the scent of wine and roasting meat. The guarded gate, the intimidating atrium, the clever floor, it was all just the prelude. The main event, the arena where the real battle will be fought, is just ahead. You take a breath, straighten your shoulders, and prepare to enter. You step through the final archway and the full scene hits you. This is the triclinium, the dining room, the heart of the Roman social universe. The word itself means 3 couches, but that feels like a laughably modest description for the room you've just entered. It's less a room and more a grand, open-sided chamber. One wall completely gone, opening onto a manicured garden where fountains splash and night blooming jasmine perfumes the air. The layout is classic, but the scale is monumental. 3 enormous couches, each large enough to hold 3 or 4 diners, are arranged in a U shape around a central table. This isn't sitting up at a table. This is reclining. You will spend the next several hours of your life on your left elbow, propped up by cushions, a posture that is designed to look relaxed and luxurious but is, in reality, an orthopedic nightmare. It's a position that puts a constant, dull pressure on your shoulder and ribs, and makes reaching for anything with your right hand a deliberate, core-engaging exercise. The couches themselves are not just furniture, they are statements. They are inlaid with tortoiseshell and ivory, and draped with heavy, deep purple cloths embroidered with gold thread. Piles of plump cushions are everywhere, some covered in silk, others in fine Egyptian linen. The central table isn't one solid piece, but a series of smaller, ornate tables of citrus wood and bronze, which can be moved in and out by the servants. The social geography of this room is as rigid and complex as a military map. The couch on the right is the lector simus, the lowest place. The one on the left is the lectus medius, the middle couch, and the one at the head of the U is the lectus summus, the high couch, the place of honor. The locus consularis is on the lectus medius, right next to the host, who reclines at the end of the high couch. It gives him a perfect view of every single guest. Your husband, as a senator of some standing, is guided to a respectable position on the middle couch, and you are guided to a spot on the lowest couch, the lectus simus. It's filled with the wives and some of the less important male clients of the host. It is not an insult, merely the established order of things. You are, in the social ecosystem of this room, a decorative but non-essential part of the display. This gives you a small measure of relief. The pressure to make witty, politically charged conversation will be lower here. You are here to eat, to drink, and to be beautiful. You arrange yourself on the couch, a maneuver that is far more difficult than it looks. You have to recline gracefully, without flashing an ankle or crushing the intricate folds of your stole. You settle onto your left elbow, feeling the familiar pull in your shoulder. A servant immediately appears at your side. A young boy from Syria, you guess, with large, dark eyes. He offers you a silver basin of rose-scented water and a linen towel to wash your hands. Then he does something that still feels strange, no matter how many times you've experienced it. He gently unlaces your golden sandals and takes them away. Dining is done barefoot. It's a sign of leaving the outside world behind, of entering the domestic, relaxed space of the home. But, in this hyper-formalized setting, it doesn't feel relaxing. It feels vulnerable. You find your assigned spot. Beside you is Livia, the much younger wife of an aging, incredibly wealthy Tex farmer. She gives you a tight, practiced smile. On your other side is a young, nervous-looking poet who has clearly been invited as part of the evening's entertainment and looks utterly terrified. Here is something historians are still scratching their heads over: the role of women at these feasts. For a long time, the popular belief, based on some ancient Greek customs and a few stern Roman moralists, was that respectable women sat upright on chairs while the men reclined. But archaeological evidence from Pompeii and countless literary sources make it clear that by your time, in the High Empire, women of your class reclined right alongside the men. Still, the debate lingers. Was it seen as slightly risque, a sign of modern, moral decay, or was it completely normal? Looking around the room, seeing all the other wives draped elegantly on their couches, it feels perfectly normal. But you know that somewhere in the city, an old-fashioned traditionalist is grumbling into his wine about how things were better in the old days when women knew their place. From your position on the low couch, you have a perfect view of the entire scene. It is at a blow of power. You see the host, Gaius Sulpicius Macer, propped up on his cushions. H.E.S. a man of about 50, with a thinning hairline but a thick, powerful neck. H.E.S. not eating. Not yet. H.E.S. watching. His eyes scan the room, taking in every detail, assessing his guests, making sure everyone is in their correct place. He is the director of this play, and he is making sure all his actors are ready for their cue. The room is filled with the low hum of polite conversation. The air is thick with the scent of flowers, perfumes, and the promise of food. A servant moves silently among the couches, and you realize the first act is about to begin. The performance is starting, and your seat, on this beautiful, uncomfortable couch, is front and center. You adjust a cushion behind your back, trying to find a position that is less agonizing, and prepare yourself. A subtle signal, a flick of the host's wrist, and the first stage of the ritual begins. A team of servers moves through the room with an almost military precision. They are young, handsome, and identically dressed in crisp linen tunics. Their movements are silent and graceful. They are human furniture, trained to be invisible unless needed. One of them arrives at your couch, holding a gleaming silver tray. On it are two things: a large, ornate silver jug, the equator, where the wine is mixed, and a simple clay amphora, beaded with condensation. This is the moment that sets the tone for the entire evening. This is the mixing of the wine. You see, no respectable Roman would drink their wine neat. To do so was considered the height of barbarism, the habit of uncivilized Gauls and drunken Germans. Wine was a gift from the gods, but it was a potent one, meant to be tamed, civilized, and diluted with water. The real question was never if you would mix it, but in what ratio. The host, Gaius, calls out to the head server, his voice carrying easily across the room. 1 part wine to 3 parts water, and use the snow water for the first round. Hello. Appreciative murmur ripples through the guests. Snow water, that is a serious flex. It meant that fresh snow had been packed into straw-insulated pits high in the mountains, then rushed down to the city by a relay of mules before it could melt, all to provide a gentle chill to the evening's first drink. It's an act of conspicuous consumption so extravagant it borders on the absurd. You are about to drink a beverage cooled by a logistical nightmare. The ratio itself is also a statement. 1 to 3. This is a relatively weak mix. A 1-to-1 ratio was for a wild party. A 2-to-1 mix was for getting seriously, purposefully drunk. A 1-to-3 or even 1-to-4 mix signaled something else entirely. This is going to be a long night. The host wants his guests lucid. He wants them to appreciate every course, to engage in witty conversation, to endure the full length of his performance. This is not about the pleasant, fuzzy feeling of intoxication. This is about endurance. The weak wine is a clear sign that you are in for a marathon, not a sprint. The server at your couch expertly pours the dark red wine from the amphora into the silver crater, then adds 3 measures of the chilled water from a separate pitcher. He gives it a quick stir with a silver ladle. Then, using the same ladle, he fills your cup. Your cup, the perseulum, is another piece of the performance. It is not humble pottery. It is made of deep blue glass, so dark it's almost black, with delicate silver leaf fused into its surface. It's cool and heavy in your hand. You hold it, but you do not drink. No one does. You wait for the host. Gaius raises his own cup, a massive, gaudy thing of solid gold. To the health of the emperor, he proclaims, and to the prosperity of our great city. A chorus of "So be it," and to the emperor, echoes around the room. You all raise your cups and take the first sip. The wine is fine. It's a decent F.A.L.R.N.I.A.M., you think, with a smooth, earthy taste, but it's so diluted that the flavor is a mere ghost. It's cool, refreshing, and entirely unthreatening. It's designed to lubricate conversation, not to cloud the mind. You take another small sip, acutely aware that this is the first of many cups you will be expected to empty tonight. Now, a strange and debated tidbit about Roman drinking culture is the existence of the arbiter bibendi, or the master of the drinking. At some parties, the guests would draw lots, usually by rolling knuckle bones, and the winner would be crowned the master. It was his job to decide the wine-to-water ratio for the night, to propose the toasts, and generally to dictate the pace of the drinking. It could be a recipe for a quiet, civilized evening or a complete disaster, depending on who won. But at a feast like this, a formal affair hosted by a powerful man, there is no master of the drinking. There is only the host. Gaius is the arbiter bibendi. His rules are no. You place your cup down on a small side table. The young poet next to you, who has been silent until now, seems to have found a sliver of courage at the bottom of his cup. An excellent vintage, he murmurs, mostly to himself. The water tempers its fire without extinguishing its soul. He says it like HES reciting a line he practiced on the way over. You give him a small, non-committal smile. The wine is a social tool, a pacer, but it is also a chemical agent. It stimulates the appetite, and as you finish your first cup and the servant immediately refills it without being asked, you feel a faint, gnawing hunger in the pit of your stomach. It's a false hunger. a manufactured craving brought on by the wine and the anticipation. It is exactly what the host wants you to feel. He wants you sharp, he wants you thirsty, and he wants you hungry. You are a finely tuned instrument, and he is the musician. The first notes have been played. The wine, cool and weak, has done its job. It has opened your palate and settled you into the long, slow rhythm of the evening. You look around at the other guests, all sipping their civilized, watered-down wine, and you know you are all in the same boat. A beautiful, luxurious, gilded boat, sailing slowly towards a distant, unknown shore of absolute excess, and the tide is just beginning to come in. The low hum of conversation, lubricated by the first cups of weak wine, fills the triclinium. The air is pregnant with anticipation. You have been settled, wanted, and prepared. Now, with another subtle gesture from Gaius, the first wave of the culinary assault begins. This is the Gustatorio, the appetizer course, designed to whet the palate and showcase the host's sophistication. A procession of servers enters, not with one large platter, but with a dozen smaller ones, which they distribute among the small tables set before the couches. The effect is one of delicate, surprising abundance. It's not about overwhelming you with volume that will come later. This is about variety, novelty, and artful presentation. Before you is placed a small, polished silver dish. On it are arranged several items that look more like jewels than food. They are wrinkled dollars from Spain, glistening with fine oil. There are slices of a soft, salty cheese from Gaul, served with a dollop of honey. And there is the quintessential Roman appetizer, the egg. But this is not just a plain boiled egg. Of course not. This is Gaius Sulpicius Macro's feast. The egg has been carefully cooked, peeled, and then decorated. Yours is served in a tiny nest of shredded herbs, and its surface has been pricked with a fine needle to create a delicate pattern, which has then been dusted with pepper. It's beautiful. It's absurd. It's a perfect symbol of the evening, taking something simple and natural and subjecting it to an immense amount of pointless, expensive labor. Next to the egg are two other items. One is a dormouse. This is perhaps one of the most famous and, to modern minds, strangest delicacies of the Roman table. But this isn't some wild mouse caught in a trap. These are special dormice, fattened in large terracotta jars called glioria, which had little shelves for them to run on and holes for ventilation. They were fed a rich diet of walnuts, acorns, and chestnuts until they were plump. This one has been scoured, stuffed with a mixture of pork mince and spices, and then roasted until its skin is crisp. It's served drizzled with honey and poppy seeds. It's tiny, barely to bites. The other item is something you've never seen before. It looks like a small, pale sausage, but it's served cold. The nervous poet next to you, eager to show off his knowledge, leans over and whispers, "Sow's udder, a great delicacy. They say it's best when the sow has just given birth." He smiles, proud of this tidbit. You look at the pale, rubbery disc on your plate. Suddenly, the dormouse seems much more appealing. You begin to eat. It's expected. You use your fingers, forks don't exist yet. You pick up an olive. It's firm, salty, and bursts with flavor. You break off a piece of the cheese and dip it in the honey. The combination of salt and sweet is a classic Roman flavor profile, and it is genuinely delicious. Everything is perfectly seasoned, perfectly prepared. This is the deception. This is the trap. The Gustatorio is designed to be a delightful experience. The portions are small. The flavors are clean and interesting. It lulls you into a false sense of security. Your body says, "This is nice. This is manageable. I can do this." You feel a sense of pleasant, civilized enjoyment. This is what a dinner party should be. You try the egg. It tastes like a hard-boiled egg with pepper on it. The artistry of its presentation is far more impressive than its flavor. You discreetly push the slice of sow's udder to the side of your plate. hoping no one will notice. Then, summoning your courage, you pick up the honeyed glazed dormouse. It's surprisingly good. The skin is crispy and sweet. The meaty filling is savory and rich. It's a tiny explosion of fat and flavor. It's gone into bites. And this is where a fascinating, if slightly unappetizing, piece of historical trivia comes in. Roman elite cuisine was obsessed with what they called surprise dishes. Food that looked like one thing but was actually another. You might be served what looks like a whole roasted pig, but when the host carves into it, live birds fly out. Or a fish that has been cooked and deboned so carefully that it looks raw, only to be filled with a savory pudding. Historians debate whether this was a common occurrence or a rare, ostentatious stunt mentioned by satirists to mock the wealthy. But the spirit of it is here, even in this first course. The goal is to surprise, to delight, to show off the skill of the host chef, the archimagirus. You finish your small plate, and a servant whisks it away instantly. Your wine cup, which was half empty, is refilled. The first deceptive bite has been taken. You feel satisfied, but not full. You feel a pleasant warmth spreading through you from the wine. You look at Livia, the woman on your other side, and she gives you a genuine, relaxed smile. The dormice are excellent tonight, she says. Gaius must have a new supplier. The conversation around you is light and cheerful. Your husband is laughing at a joke made by the senator next to him. The terrifying poet is now happily nibbling on a piece of cheese. The atmosphere is genuinely festive. You allow yourself to relax. Just a little. Maybe you were wrong. Maybe tonight won't be the ordeal you feared. Maybe Gaius has learned some restraint. Maybe this will just be a pleasant, if overly lavish, dinner party. It's a lovely thought. A hopeful one. It is, of course, completely wrong. This was just the opening salvo. The gentle wave that washes up the beach before the tsunami hits. The host has expertly stimulated your appetite and lowered your guard. You are content. You are comfortable. And you are utterly unprepared for what is coming next. The pleasant, murmuring interlude is short-lived. The small appetizer tables are cleared away with swift, silent efficiency. The air in the triclinium seems to shift, growing heavier with a new kind of anticipation. This is the main event, the scene proper. This is where the host moves from showcasing his sophistication to bludgeoning you with his wealth. There is a sound from the garden. A low, sustained blast from a horn. It's theatrical. Of course, everything is theatrical. As the sound fades, a procession of a dozen slaves enters the room, moving in perfect sync. They are carrying enormous platters of silver and bronze, each one so heavy that it takes two of them to hold it aloft. This is no longer about delicate, individual portions. This is about a grand, overwhelming spectacle. They place the platters on a large central serving table, and the host, Gaius, rises slightly on his elbow, gesturing to the spread with a proud sweep of his arm. "A humble meal," he says, with a smile that knows he is lying, "but I hope it is to your liking." It is a parade of peacocks, a menagerie of the absurd, a centerpiece. The dish that draws a collective gasp from the guests is a full wild boar. It's been roasted to a perfect, crackling brown and is lying on a massive silver tray. But it's been arranged as if it's still alive, standing on its own feet, with two sharp, white tusks made of polished ivory placed in its mouth. And here's the surprise, because there must always be a surprise. The boar is wearing a jaunty little freedman's cap. A servant with a long, sharp carving knife steps up to the boar and, with a flourish, slices open its belly. A cascade of roasted thrushes, sausages, and dates spills out onto the platter. It's grotesque. It's magnificent. It's the ultimate edible party trick. But that's just the beginning. On another platter is the dish you were reading. Peacock. Not one, but three of them. Roasted and then painstakingly reassembled with their own iridescent blue and green feathers. They sit on the platter looking exactly as they did in life, their long necks arched, their fantastic tails fanned out behind them. It's a stunning sight. The problem, as you know from bitter experience, is that peacock meat is notoriously tough, stringy, and bland. It looks 1,000 times better than it tastes, but it's the ultimate status symbol, incredibly expensive and difficult to raise. You don't eat peacock for the flavor. You eat it to show that you can. And the parade continues. There is a huge platter of lobsters, their bright red shells glistening, piled up like a mountain. There is a whole roasted goat, stuffed with herbs. There is a dish that looks like a giant fish, but it's actually made of molded pork, cleverly disguised. There's a tray of flamingo tongues, a delicacy so specific and wasteful it boggles the mind. Imagine the sheer number of flamingos required to make that one small dish. It's a monument to conspicuous waste. Servants, now armed with carving knives and serving spoons, begin to move among the couches, offering portions of everything. This is where the pressure starts to mount. A carver arrives at your side, holding a small plate. "Domino," he says, his voice neutral. "Sambor," or perhaps the peacock. You can't refuse. To refuse a dish is to insult the host. It implies that his food is not good enough for you, so you must accept. But what do you choose? The boar, which is probably delicious but incredibly fatty and filling, or the peacock, which you know will be a chore to eat but is the more impressive choice. You sigh inwardly. A little of the peacock, please. He carves off a slice of the breast meat and places it on your plate. He then adds, without asking, a helping of the thrushes that spilled from the boar, and a large spoonful of a rich, dark sauce. Your small, clean plate is suddenly a messy landscape of rich, heavy food. You pick up the first piece of peacock with your fingers. It's as tough as you remembered. You have to chew, and chew, and chew. The flavor is almost non-existent, masked completely by the sauce it's drenched in. You swallow it with some effort. It lands in your stomach with a thud, joining the memory of the delicate dormouse and the salty olive. It feels heavy, ominous. The wine continues to flow, but it's a different wine now. A stronger, more robust vintage has been brought out to stand up to the heavy meats. It's mixed at a more generous 1-to-2 ratio now. It's hid higher, and it's no longer helping. It's starting to make the rich food feel even richer. The rooms feel even warmer. This brings us to a peculiar little fact that food historians have pieced together from agricultural texts and ancient recipes. The Romans had access to a huge variety of ingredients, but their flavor palette was fundamentally different from ours. They didn't have sugar in the way we do, relying on honey for sweetness. They didn't have tomatoes, potatoes, or chili peppers. Their dominant flavors were a complex mix of sweet and sour, often in the same dish. Honey was used on meat. Vinegar was common. And everything, absolutely everything, was seasoned with a fermented fish sauce called gar or liquor. The sauce on your peacock is heavy with it. It's a salty, savory, funky flavor that permeates every bite. For the Roman palate, it was the ultimate flavor enhancer. For your modern sensibilities, it would be an overpowering, fishy assault. For you, sitting here on this couch, it's just another layer of overwhelming sensation that you have to process. You look around. Everyone is eating. Or rather, everyone is performing the act of eating. They are lifting food to their lips. They are chewing. They are nodding in appreciation. But you are close enough to see the slight sheen of sweat on the forehead of the man opposite you. You see Olivia, your neighbor, taking tiny, almost microscopic bites of the boar, pushing it around her plate to make it look like she's eaten more than she has. This is the tyranny of the feast. It's a relentless, forward-moving assault of food. You have barely finished your first serving when the carver is back. No, Domino, perhaps the goat. The flamingo tongues are said to be divine. You feel a rising panic. Your stomach is already protesting, but the parade has just begun. There will be more courses after this, and you cannot stop. You must continue. You must eat the peacock. You take another bite of the tough peacock meat. It's an exercise in mastication, a jaw-aching chore. But, as you chew, you are acutely aware of the eyes upon you. Not directly. No one is staring. That would be rude. But the air is thick with observation. The host, Gaius, from his throne-like position on the high couch, sees everything. Your fellow guests, even as they struggle with their own mountains of food, are peripherally aware of your performance. And the servants, silent and ever-present, miss nothing. This is the central task of the evening, far more important than making pleasant conversation or wearing the right jewelry. You must perform the act of ecstatic consumption. It is not enough to simply eat the food. You must be seen to be reveling in it. Your face must be a mask of pure, unadulterated pleasure. You swallow the mouthful of peacock and for a smile, you turn to Livia, who is delicately dissecting a single roasted thrush as if it were a complex surgical procedure. The seasoning is exquisite. You say, your voice a little louder than necessary, ensuring it carries. Gaius has truly outdone himself. Livia looks up, her eyes wide with what could be mistaken for delighted agreement, but you recognize as a flicker of shared panic. Isn't it? She replies, her voice equally bright and false. I've never tasted anything quite like it. This is the script. You are all actors in a play about the perfect dinner party. The lines are unwritten, but everyone knows them. You praise the food. You compliment the host. You express a constant, low-level state of impressed wonder. The truth that your stomach is beginning to feel like a lid-lined bag. That the rich sauces are starting to curdle into a single, greasy slick. That the very thought of another bite fills you with a quiet dread must be ruthlessly suppressed. The nervous poet on your other side is, surprisingly, failing at this. He is a rookie. He is actually eaten. HES on his third helping of the boar. His face flushed with wine and exertion, grease shining on his chin. He is groaning with what appears to be genuine pleasure. You look at him with a mixture of pity and contempt. He doesn't understand the game. He thinks the point of the food is to eat it. The poor soul. He will pay for this later. You, on the other hand, are a veteran. You know the techniques. You cut your meat into tiny pieces. You lift a pasty on it, then put it back down as you turn to engage in conversation. Forgetting it was on its way, you use the large linen napkin, the matter, not just to wipe your fingers, but to discreetly dispose of a particularly grist-like piece of meat. It's a delicate dance of deception. A servant appears with a tray of exotic seafood oysters, sea urchins, and slices of moray eel, a famously prized and aggressive fish that the wealthiest Romans kept as pets in private saltwater ponds. This is another one of those slightly bizarre historical facts. Some Roman elites became so attached to their pet eels, which they would adorn with jewelry, that they were said to weep when one died. The eel on this platter, however, has not been so lucky. It's been roasted and drenched in a spicy sauce. Domina, the servant asks. Just a taste, you murmur, indicating the smallest oyster. I must save room for what is yet to come. It's the perfect response. It's a compliment wrapped in a refusal. It implies that you are wisely pacing yourself for the promised future delights, not that you are already feeling physically ill. The oyster is slimy and intensely salty. It slides down your throat with an unpleasant speed. You chase it with a large gulp of wine, which now feels less like a pleasant accompaniment and more like a necessary solvent. The performance of joy is exhausting. It takes more energy than the eating itself. You have to constantly monitor your expression, your posture, your words. Your face begins to ache from a sustained, low-grade smile. Your body wants to slump, to curl in on itself in protest, but you must remain elegantly reclined, a picture of languid, aristocratic grace. This entire performance raises a question that historians and archaeologists still puzzle over. What was the sound of a Roman dinner party? Some satirical accounts describe them as raucous. Drunken affairs with shouting, belching, and loud music. But the formal setting of a feast like this, the sheer oppressive weight of the social expectations, suggests something else. Was it a low, polite murmur, punctuated by the host's pronouncements? Was there nervous laughter? Or was there, beneath the surface chatter, a strange, tense quiet as everyone focused on the difficult, painful work of eating? The truth is likely a mixture of all three, changing as the night wore on and the wine took its toll. You look across the room and catch your husband's eye. He is deep in conversation with a senator, a piece of roasted goat held in his hand. He gives you a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. It's a check-in. It says, "Are you playing your part?" You smile back, a radiant, manufactured beam of pure delight, and lift your wine cup in a silent toast to him. The gesture is flawless. It feels like a lie down to the very marrow of your bones. He turns back to his conversation, satisfied. Your smile immediately fades the moment his attention is elsewhere. The effort is immense. Your stomach churns. The peacock, the thrush, the oyster, and the wine are having a tumultuous meeting in your gut, and no one is happy. The room is hot. The smell of roasted meat and fish sauce and spilled wine is thick and cloying. And you know, with a sickening certainty, that the main course is not even close to being over. The parade of peacocks has only just begun its march. Just as you think you might find a moment's respite, a brief lull in the relentless culinary tide, a new scent cuts through the thick air of the triclinium. It is sharp, pungent, and deeply, deeply fishy. It is a smell that separates the true Roman palate from the pretenders. It is the smell of garum. Of course, garum has been a subtle presence all evening, a best note in the sauces and stuffings. But now, it is about to take center stage. A new dish is brought out, not with the flamboyant spectacle of the peacock or the bull, but with a certain solemnity. It's a large, shallow ceramic bowl, and in its rims chunks of a delicate white fish, poached in a shimmering, golden-brown liquid. This is the garum challenge. A server ladles a small portion into a clean bowl and places it before you. You look down at it. The steam rising from the bowl carries that powerful, unmistakable aroma. It's a smell that can't be adequately described. It's salty, yes, but it's also savory in a way that borders on cheesy, with a funky, fermented depth that speaks of the sea and of time. Let's take a moment to truly understand this substance. The ketchup and soy sauce of the Roman world. Garum, or its less prestigious cousin liquamen, was made by layering fish guts, blood, heads, and all with salt in large vats and leaving them to ferment in the sun for months. The enzymes from the fish's own digestive tract would break down the flesh, creating a protein-rich, savory liquid that was then strained and bottled. The highest quality garum, made from specific fish like mackerel or tuna, was known as garum sociorum and was worth a fortune. A clear, amber liquid prized for its complex flavor, the cheap stuff was a sludgy, grey mess used to flavor the gruel of soldiers and slaves. The garum in this bowl, you can tell by its color and aroma, is the good stuff. The really good stuff, which, in some ways, makes it worse. This dish is a test. It's a shibboleth. To truly enjoy it, to praise its specific funk, is to prove you are a true connoisseur, a person of refined and authentically Roman taste. To recoil from it, to even hesitate, is to reveal yourself as provincial, unsophisticated. You look at Livia. She has a tiny portion in front of her, and she is staring at it with the same expression she might have if a live scorpion were placed on her plate. Her performance of joy has finally met a challenge it cannot overcome. Her mask is cracked. The young poet, however, his face now a deep crimson from the wine and the boar, looks ecstatic. "Ah, the nectar of Neptune himself," he proclaims, and dips a piece of bread into the sauce with gusto. You feel your stomach clench. It's already a hostile territory, a churning battleground of mismatched fats and proteins. The thought of introducing this potent, fermented liquid into the fray is horrifying. It feels less like eating and more like conducting a dangerous chemical experiment. But you have to. The host, Gaius, is watching. He has a small bowl himself, and he is savoring it, closing his eyes as he takes a sip of the broth, a look of sublime appreciation on his face. It's a dear. This is what we, the true elite, enjoy, his expression says. Can you keep up? You pick up a small piece of the poached fish with your fingers. It's delicate and flaky. You bring it to your mouth. The smell is overwhelming. You place it on your tongue. For a moment, it's not so bad. The fish itself is mild. But then the sauce hits. An explosion of salt and a deep, profound umami flavor that coats your entire mouth. It is incredibly intense. It's not just fishy. It's the very essence of fish, distilled and amplified over months of sun-baked decay. And this is where we encounter one of those fun academic debates that keeps classicists employed. For decades, the prevailing theory was that garum was universally beloved, a foundational taste of Roman civilization. But more recently, some food historians have pushed back, suggesting that, much like certain pungent cheeses or fermented foods today, its appeal might not have been as universal as the texts suggest. The satirists who mock its overpowering smell might not have been just joking. They might have been reflecting a genuine ambivalence. Was everyone at this party secretly holding their breath? Or were you the only one struggling? There's no way to know for sure. You swallow. The fish and its sauce slide down your throat and land in your stomach with an almost audible splash. You can feel it. You can feel this new, aggressive ingredient beginning to interact with the wine, the peacock, the oily thrushes. It's not a pleasant feeling. It's a roiling, bubbling insurrection. You need to say something. You catch the host's eye. You force another smile, hoping it doesn't look like a grimace. The garum is from Antipholus, is it not? Gaius, you ask, naming a city in Gaul famous for its high-quality fish sauce. I recognize that unique clarity. It's a complete guess, a shot in the dark. But it's the right kind of guess. It shows you are paying attention. That you are a person who thinks about the provenance of your fish sauce. Gaius beams. He has been waiting for someone to notice. By the gods, she has it. Your palate is as sharp as your wit. Domina. Success. You have passed the test. The praise washes over you, but it offers no comfort. Because now, having demonstrated your connoisseurship, you are expected to take another bite. The carver is already moving towards you with the bowl, uttering a restful. The challenge has been met, but the ordeal has been extended. You have won the battle, but you are losing the war against your own body. The praise from Gaius rings hollow in your ears, drowned out by a much more immediate and alarming internal monologue. The garum has landed. It was not a gentle splash, but a depth charge, and the shockwaves are now radiating through your entire digestive system. This is the turning point. The carefully constructed facade of enjoyment is beginning to crumble, not from a failure of will, but from a full-scale rebellion of the flesh. It begins as a subtle pressure, a feeling of tightness high up under your ribs, your belt, the embroidered band tie just beneath your breast, which felt merely snug an hour ago, now feels like a constrictor. The silk of your stole, once whispering and light, now feels heavy and suffocating. You are acutely aware of the sheer volume of matter you have introduced into your body. The egg, the dormouse, the salty cheese, the tough peacock, the greasy thrushes, the slimy oyster, and now, the potent, fishy broth, acting as a chemical accelerant on the whole volatile mixture. You shift on the couch, trying to find a position that gives your compressed organs a millimeter more space. But the reclining posture, once a symbol of leisure, is now an instrument of torment. Lying on your side squashes everything together. You have a sudden, desperate urge to stand up, to walk around, but that is an unthinkable breach of etiquette. You are pinned to this couch by a combination of social pressure and your own body weight. The pressure builds into a distinct, uncomfortable bloat. It feels as if a wineskin is being slowly inflated inside your abdomen. A low, gurgling sound emanates from somewhere deep within you, and you pray to the gods that it isn't audible to the poet beside you, who is now sweating profusely and breathing heavily through his mouth. A wave of warmth washes over you that has nothing to do with the temperature of the room. It's a clammy, internal heat. A faint sheen of perspiration breaks out on your brow, and you hope your lead powder foundation doesn't begin to run. You feel a sudden, sharp pang of something like indigestion. The hurt, acidic sensation that creeps up the back of your throat. You take a quick, nervous sip of wine, hoping to wash it down. But the wine itself now tastes sour and treacherous. You look around the room, your eyes slightly unfocused. The flickering torchlight seems to pulse in time with the throbbing in your stomach. The vibrant frescoes on the wall, the scenes of mythological struggle, suddenly seem intensely personal. You are Hercules wrestling the Nemean lion, but the lion is a roasted peacock and it is winning. You are Persephone, being dragged down into the underworld, but the underworld is a churning abyss of fermented fish sauce. The horror of the situation settles in not as a thought, but as a physical certainty. You are not even halfway through. You know, from past experience, that after this savory onslaught comes the dessert course. The men's I which will be an entirely new category of sweet, heavy punishment, and there will be more wine. And after the food, there will be entertainment, poetry, music, a tedious, hours-long performance that you must endure while your body is staging its own violent, internal drama. This is a specific kind of physical misery that is unique to this world. It's not the sharp, clean pain of an injury. It's not the dull ache of honest fatigue. It is the sickening, oppressive misery of deliberate, enforced excess. Your body, a miraculous machine designed for survival, is being pushed to its absolute limit, not for nourishment, not even for genuine pleasure, but for the sake of a social display. You are a living sacrifice on the altar of your host's ego. This is where we must touch on a very real, and still debated, aspect of Roman health. What did this kind of feasting actually do to their bodies? Analysis of skeletal remains from this period shows that the wealthy often suffered from a range of metabolic diseases. Gout, a painful inflammatory arthritis caused by high levels of uric acid from rich foods like red meat and shellfish, was rampant. It was even known as the disease of kings. Dental evidence also shows that the elite, with their access to softer, more processed foods and honey, often had worse teeth than the poor, who subsisted on a rougher, grain-based diet. Historians argue about the specifics, but the general picture is clear. This lifestyle, this parade of peacocks and rivers of wine, was fundamentally unhealthy. It was a slow, cumulative form of self-poisoning. You feel another gurgle, louder this time. A wave of nausea, potent and undeniable, rises from your stomach. You swallow hard, your mouth suddenly filling with saliva. The room tilts slightly. The poet beside you has gone quiet, his face a pale, greenish-white. He has his eyes closed, as if trying to meditate his way through the crisis. He has hit the wall, and you are right there with him. The panic is no longer quiet. It is a screaming siren in your mind. I cannot take another bite. I cannot have another sip. But you know you must. To stop now, to show any sign of weakness, would be a fatal social error. There has to be a way out. A release valve. A solution to this impossible equation of endless food and finite stomach capacity. Your mind races, fumbling for an answer, a way to survive the next few hours. The feast has become a prison, and your own body is the warden, and you need to find an escape route. First, the wave of nausea crests and then slowly recedes, leaving you feeling weak, clammy, and profoundly desperate. You are trapped. The social contract of the evening is unbreakable, and the physical reality of your own body is undeniable. These two truths are on a collision course, and you are at the point of impact. You stare blankly at the mosaic floor, trying to regulate your breathing, when a voice, low and conspiratorial, cuts through your internal panic. The first time at one of Gaish's little suppers is always the hardest. You turn. It's Livia, your neighbor on the couch. Her face, which had been a mask of strained politeness, has softened into something like genuine sympathy. She has seen your distress. She has recognized the pale, sweaty sheen of a fellow soldier about to fall on the battlefield of gluttony. She shifts slightly closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that is lost in the general din of the room. You look like you're about to meet the gods, she says, a wry, humorless smile on her lips. Don't worry, there's a way through it, a little secret of the house. You look at her, your eyes wide with a mixture of hope and dread. A secret, a solution. She leans in so close you can smell the expensive perfume in her hair and the faint, sour scent of wine on her breath. You cannot show weakness. She murmurs, her eyes flicking towards the host, then back to you. But the body can only take so much. Even Gaius, for all his posturing, understands the practicalities. He provides a service. You don't understand. A service. What is she talking about? You've heard the stories, I'm sure. She continues, her voice a silky thread. The common folk, the satirists, they talk of the Vomitorium. You nod. Of course you've heard the term. It's a popular piece of gossip, a caricature of the decadent elite. The idea that wealthy Romans would build special rooms, lavishly decorated, just for the purpose of being sick, so they could return to the feast and eat more. A place of marble basins and plush couches where you could purge in Compton style. Livia lets out a short, shrill, silent laugh. It's a bitter, knowing sound, my dear. The Vomitorium is a myth. A brilliant piece of slander, but a myth nonetheless. And here, Livia whispers a truth that architectural historians and classicists have been trying to explain for centuries. The word Vomitorium is real, but it has absolutely nothing to do with vomiting. It refers to the large passageways in a Roman amphitheater or theater, the tunnels that allowed a vast crowd to spew forth. The Latin verb is vomere, from the stadium into the street after a show. It's about crowd control, not indigestion. The idea that it was a room for purging is a common, enjoying, but completely inaccurate misconception, a joke that has been mistaken for history. There is no grand, marble room for this, Livia says, her voice dropping even lower. That would be tasteless, obvious. Gaius is all about subtlety. The solution is much more discreet, more medical. She gestures with a slight, almost imperceptible tilt of her head towards a small, unassuming doorway at the far end of the triclinium, partially hidden by a heavy tapestry depicting the drunken god Bacchus. Go through there. Turn left down the corridor. Their door on the right. It's small. It's plain. No one will notice. What's in there? You whisper, your heart beginning to pound with a new, strange rhythm. Livia's eyes meet yours. Her expression is devoid of all glamour. It's the look of a seasoned veteran explaining a grim battlefield necessity to a new recruit. Relief, she says simply. A slave will be waiting. You will have what you need. A bowl, one mutter, and a feather. A feather. The word hangs in the air between you, so the stories went through in their own squalid way. Not the grand, social purging in a dedicated hall, but a secret, lonely, functional act in a hidden back room. It's not a celebration of decadence. It's a grim, practical necessity for surviving it. Go, she urges, giving your arm a slight squeeze. Now, before the dessert course arrives. That's a whole new battle, and you'll need to be ready for it. Just get up slowly. Pretend you are going to admire the frescoes in the hallway. The thought is both horrifying and intoxicating. The idea of deliberately making yourself sick is repulsive. It's a violation. But the alternative, to sit here for another 3 hours with this churning, acidic inferno in your stomach, feels impossible. It's a choice between two kinds of degradation. One is slow, public, and agonizing. The other is quick, private, undeficient. You look at Livia's face, at the hard-won wisdom in her eyes. She is not judging you, she is helping you. This is the secret handshake of the Roman elite wife. This is how they endure. This is the dark, unspoken sorority of the feast. You make your decision. You slowly, carefully, push yourself up from the couch. The movement sends a fresh wave of nausea through you, but it's mixed with a strange sense of purpose. You press a hand to your stomach, a gesture that could be interpreted as a sign of satisfied fullness. The poet gives you a glassy-eyed stare. You ignore him. You take a steadying breath and begin the long, slow walk across the marble floor. You keep your head high, your expression serene. You are just a guest, taking a moment to stretch her legs, to admire her host's impeccable decor. No one looks at you twice. You are invisible. You are just another woman in a pretty dress. But you are on your way to a secret room, to a Boland de Feather. You are walking towards the dark, hidden engine that keeps this entire glittering machine of consumption running. The walk across the triclinium feels like a mile. Each step is a careful negotiation between your churning stomach and the need to project an aura of effortless grace. The marble floor is cool beneath your bare feet. A small, pleasant sensation in a sea of physical distress. You keep your eyes fixed on the tapestry of Bacchus, the god of wine and ecstatic madness, which seems like a cruel joke right now. His painted eyes seem to follow you, a silent, drunken witness to your grim pilgrimage. You pass behind the high couch where Gaius is reclining. He is laughing at something one of his important guests has said, his hand resting on the man's shoulder. He doesn't even glance in your direction. You are, as Livia predicted, utterly beneath his notice, a small blessing. You reach the heavy tapestry and slip behind it. The immediate change in atmosphere is jarring. The noise of the feast is instantly muffled, replaced by a cool, echoing silence. You are in a narrow, windowless service corridor, lit by a single, smoky oil lamp that casts long, dancing shadows on the plastered walls. The air here smells not of perfume and roasted meat, but of damp stone, lamp oil, and something else of faint, sour, medicinal smell. The opulence of the feast is gone. This is the backstage area, the unglamorous guts of the house. You follow Livia's instructions. Turn left. The corridor is bare. Third door on the right. The doors are simple, unadorned wood. There is nothing to indicate that one is different from the others. It's a place designed to be overlooked. You pause in front of the third door, your hand hovering over the simple iron latch. Your heart is hammering against your ribs. This feels shameful. A secret, degrading act that is the very opposite of the refined, aristocratic image you have so carefully constructed. You think of the layers of silk you wear, the gold on your wrists, the intricate tower of braids on your head. They all feel like a ridiculous costume now, a hollow mockery. Taking a deep, shaky breath, you lift the latch and push the door open. The room is small, barely a closet. The walls are plain, whitewashed plaster. There is no furniture, save for a single, no stool. The floor is not mosaic, but simple, functional tile, sloping gently towards a small drain in the center. The only light comes from another flickering oil lamp on a small wall shelf, and in the center of the room, waiting for you, is a slave. He is an old man, with a face as wrinkled as a dried fig and eyes that hold no judgment, only a deep, bottomless weariness. He has seen this 1,000 times. He has presided over this sad little ritual for countless guests on countless nights. He doesn't speak. He simply gives a slight, almost imperceptible nod of his head. Beside him on the floor are the tools of his trade, laid out with a strange, clinical tidiness. A large, empty ceramic bowl of plain, unadorned earthenware, A pitcher of what you assume is warm, salted water, and next to it, lying on a clean linen cloth, is a single, long, elegant peacock feather. The irony is so bitter it almost makes you laugh. You have just been struggling to consume the flesh of a peacock, a symbol of ultimate luxury. And now, you will use another part of that same bird as a tool to violently expel it. The peacock, the symbol of the feast, is both the poison and the antidote. The slave gestures towards the bowl. The message is clear. He is here to assist, to provide the necessary implements, and then to clean up the aftermath. He is the silent confessor of this squalid little sacrament. This private, functional reality is a world away from the slanderous myth of the grand Vomitorium. This is not a social activity. It is a lonely, physical necessity. And it brings up a hotly debated point among historians of daily life, the Roman attitude towards the body. On one hand, they were people of public baths, of communal latrines, of a general lack of privacy that would seem shocking to us. On the other hand, acts like this were hidden away, relegated to back rooms and silent, anonymous slaves. Where was the line between public function and private shame drawn? The existence of this room suggests the line was very clear indeed. Feasting was public. Its consequences were private. You look from the slave's impassive face to the grim to blow on the floor. The bowl, the water, the feather. This is the solution Livia promised. But it does not feel like a solution. It feels like a surrender. I surrender to the tyranny of the feast. A final admission that your own body is not yours to control. It is just a vessel. A container that must be periodically emptied so that it can be refilled according to the rules of the game. The slave waits, patient as stone. The muffled sounds of the party seem a world away. In this small, silent room, there is no performance. There is only a simple, brutal transaction to be made. You close the door behind you, shutting out the last of the light from the corridor. It is time. The door clicks shut, and the world shrinks to the dimensions of this small, dim room. The air is still and close. The only sound is the faint hiss of the oil lamp and the frantic thumping of your own heart. The old slave stands motionless. His presence a silent, non-gymgetinal weight in the corner. He is a part of the room's function, no different from the bowl or the soaping floor. You look down at the tools laid out before you. They seem alien. Instruments for a medical procedure you are about to perform on yourself. The ceramic bowl is wide and deep, a store, functional object. The pitcher of water sits beside it, promising a lukewarm, salty flush. And then there is the feather. It is a tail feather from a peacock, long and slender, with the iridescent eye at its tip shimmering softly in the lamplight. It's strangely beautiful, a piece of the evening's ostentatious display, now repurposed for this grim task. It represents the grotesque circular logic of the feast. The same symbol of excess used to create more capacity for excess. You know what you have to do. The knowledge is instinctual. A piece of cultural software you didn't even know you had. You kneel on the tiled floor. The silk of your expensive stole lay pooling around you like a saffron-colored cloud. The position is awkward and humbling. The heavy, intricate hairstyle you endured hours of pain for now feels top-heavy, pulling your head forward. You reach for the pitcher and pour some of the warm, salted water into a cup the slave has provided. You drink it down. It's tepid and briny, and the taste is immediately nauseating. This is by design. It's a catalyst, meant to make the process quicker, more efficient. Then you pick up the feather. The shaft is smooth and cool against your fingertips. This is the moment of truth. The final surrender. All the performance. The smiles. The witty remarks. The elegant posture, it all comes down to this. A woman in a silk dress, kneeling before a ceramic bowl in a hidden closet, about to gag herself with a feather. You close your eyes, take a shaky breath, and do it. The sensation is awful. The soft tip of the feather touches the back of your throat, and your body reacts with immediate, convulsive violence. There is no thought, no control. It is a pure, primal reflex. Your stomach, which has been a churning knot of misery for the last hour, seizes in a powerful, wrenching spasm. Everything comes up in a hot, acidic rush: the wine, the tossed peacock, the fishy garum, the slimy oyster. It's a chaotic and dignified explosion, a complete betrayal of the calm, orderly consumption that preceded it. The sounds are ugly. The feeling is brutal. It is a moment of profound and absolute physical humiliation. You recoil from the bowl, gasping, your eyes streaming with tears. Your throat burns. A string of saliva hangs from your lip. You feel dizzy, your head light and empty. The slave, who has not moved a muscle, silently offers you a fresh cup of water for rinsing and a clean linen towel. You take them, your hands shaking. This act, this forced purge, is the subject of much lurid speculation in popular histories of Rome. Seneca the Younger, a stoic philosopher and moralist, famously wrote of men who vomit so that they may eat, and eat so that they may vomit. His words have been seized upon to paint a picture of universal, nightly debauchery. But how common was this, really? Was it a regular practice for everyone at a feast like this, or was it a more desperate measure, a last resort for the uninitiated or the overly indulgent? Like the poor poet, this is another one of those questions where the academic jury is still out. The moralists and satirists likely exaggerated for effect. It's hard to imagine this being a sustainable, nightly routine. It's more likely that it was an open secret, a feature of the most extreme feasts, available to those who needed it, but perhaps not used by everyone. It was a sign that the host's generosity had tipped over into a form of passive-aggressive hostility. And this was the grim escape hatch he provided. You rinse your mouth, the clean water bomb on your raw throat. You wipe your face with the towel. The immediate physical relief is immense. The pressure in your stomach is gone. The bloating has vanished. The nausea has been replaced by a strange, hollow emptiness. You feel light, almost floaty, but the relief is purely physical. Emotionally, you feel scoured out, degraded. The beautiful armor of your clothes and makeup feels like a sham. You are not the elegant aristocrat you were pretending to be. You are just a body, a machine for processing and discarding food. The feast has reduced you to your most basic, animal functions. The old slave quietly takes the soiled bowl. He will take it away, clean it, and have it ready for the next guest who needs it. There is no ceremony here, no shame, no pity. It is simply a task, a job. You get to your feet, your legs unsteady. You feel fragile, hollowed out. The feather lies on the floor by the empty pitcher. It's task complete. You have done it. You have purged. You have reset the system. You have emptied the vessel. Now, you are ready to return to the feast and begin the agonizing process of filling it all over again. You take one last, steadying breath in the grim little room. You smooth down the front of your stole, check your reflection in a small, polished bronze disc the slave offers you. Your makeup is miraculously intact, a testament to Lyra's skill, and you push the door open. Stepping back into the lamplit corridor feels like surfacing from a great depth. The muffled sounds of the feast rush back in, louder now, almost alien. You walk back towards the triclinium, your steps slow and deliberate. Your body feels strangely disconnected from you. The physical relief is undeniable, a blessed absence of pressure and pain, but it's been replaced by a different sensation, a cold, hollow emptiness. It's not the clean, pleasant emptiness of genuine hunger. It's a raw, scoured-out feeling. You feel vacant, as if you've been physically and emotionally scooped out. You slip back behind the tapestry of Bacchusandry into the main room. The scene is exactly as you left it. The air is still thick with the smells of food and wine. The guests are still reclining on their couches, their faces flushed. The poet next to your spot has his head leaned back, his eyes closed, his mouth slightly agape. He did not take Livia's advice. and he is now lost in a digestive stupor. No one seems to have noticed your absence, or if they did, they are polite enough to pretend they didn't. This is the unspoken rule of the secret room. Its use is never, ever acknowledged. You settle back onto your couch, the movement feeling both familiar and strained. Livia gives you a quick, appraising look. It's not a question, it's a confirmation. She sees the subtle change in your collar, the slight tremor in your hand as you reach for your wine cup. She gives you a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. Welcome back to the war. A servant materializes at your side, as if summoned by your return. He tops up your wine cup. You take a sip. The wine, which before had been a source of sour dread, now tastes clean and sharp against your empty, raw palate. You feel its alcoholic heat hit your system with an unnerving speed, without the buffer of food. The wine is a more potent, more dangerous force. This is the strange paradox of the hollow return. You have made room. As the euphemism goes, you have prepared yourself for the next onslaught. But you are also weaker, more vulnerable. Your body's defenses are down. You are an empty fortress, waiting for the next siege. You look at the remnants of the main course still on the serving tables, the carcass of the boar, the denuded skeletons of the peacocks. The sight, which should be repulsive, is strangely neutral. You feel no hunger, but also no disgust, just a profound, weary detachment. The food has been stripped of all its meaning. It is not for pleasure, not for nourishment. It is simply material, fuel for the social engine of the evening. And what did the Romans themselves think about this on a philosophical level? It's a question that has long fascinated historians. The Stoics, like Seneca, railed against this kind of excess as a sign of moral sickness, a slavery to passion and appetite. The Epicureans, who are often misunderstood as simple hedonists, would have been equally appalled. True Epicurean was about seeking modest, sustainable pleasures and avoiding pain, the very opposite of this violent cycle of gluttony and purging. So who, then, was this for? It was for men like Gaius, men for whom a feast was not about philosophy, but about power. It was a projection of status so overwhelming that it forced its participants into a state of physical and moral degradation. You are a testament to that power. Your hollowed-out stomach is a trophy of Gaius' wealth. Your husband, Marcus, catches your eye from across the room. He raises an eyebrow, a silent query. You respond with the correct expression, a soft, contented smile. A look that says you are enjoying his hospitality immensely. The lie is easier to tell now. The physical misery that made the performance so difficult is gone, replaced by this cold, blank emptiness, acting as easier when you feel nothing at all. The servants begin to clear the remains of the cena. The great platters of meat and fish are carried away. The tables are wiped clean. There is a brief, quiet interlude. You watch the poet being gently, but firmly, roused by a slave. He looks confused. His face pale and puffy. He has failed the endurance test. He will likely not be invited back. You feel a strange, cold pity for him. He made the simple mistake of thinking the feast was about the food. You are pleasant experience, on the other hand, have learned the lesson. You have passed through the secret door, undergone the grim ritual, and returned. You have proven you can endure. The emptiness inside you is a cold, hard note. You take another sip of wine, feeling its warmth spread too quickly through your veins. You are back on the couch, back in your beautiful armor. You are ready for the next step. And as the servants begin to bring out new platters, piled high with glistening, honey-drenched creations, you know that the next act is about to begin. The hollow return is complete. The cycle is ready to start again. The brief, quiet interlude ends as abruptly as it began. The air, which had been thick with the savory scents of meat and garum, now begins to fill with a new, glowing aroma. It's the smell of honey, baked fruits, and warm spices. The man's eye secondé. The second table has arrived. This is the dessert course. If the main course was a blunt for a sort of fat and protein, the dessert is a smothering wave of pure, unadulterated sugar. A new procession of slaves enters, carrying platters that seem to shimmer and glow in the torchlight. This is not a subtle course. It is a monument to sweetness. A platter is placed near your couch that holds what looks like a mountain of glistening, golden brown spheres. These are globuli, little balls of fried cheese curd, soaked in honey and sprinkled with poppy seeds. They are served hot, and the smell is intoxicatingly sweet. Next to it is a large, flat cake, a placenta on the S. Historians get a little chuckle out of the fact that the Roman word for a layered honey cake made with flour and ricotta cheese is the same as the medical term we use today. There is, thankfully, no etymological connection. It's just an unfortunate linguistic coincidence. Then there are the fruits. But these are not simple, fresh fruits. That would be far too rustic for a feast like this. There are dates, stuffed with ground nuts and then fried. There are figs, baked until they are bursting and soft, drizzled with more honey. There are pears, poached in a sweet, spiced wine. And there is a grand centerpiece, a huge silver bowl piled high with a glistening heap of grapes, each one individually coated in a thin, clear layer of hardened honey, making them look like amber jewels. Your stomach, so recently and violently emptied, gives a strange, confused lurch. It is a biological machine utterly unprepared for this new challenge. After being subjected to a deluge of salt, fat, and fermented protein, this sudden, overwhelming flood of sweetness is a profound shock to the system. You have no buffer, no foundation. This honey-drenched mountain is about to be dumped directly onto a raw, empty, and very unhappy organ. A servant approaches with a small plate. Domina, some cake, or perhaps the honeyed grapes. You have to choose. You have to continue the performance. Your return from a secret room was a commitment to see this through to the bitter, or in this case, sickly sweet, end. You look at the options. The fried cheese balls seem impossibly heavy. The cake, dense and rich. The stuffed dates, a sticky nightmare. The grapes, please, you murmur. They look exquisite. It seems like the lightest, safest option. The servant uses a small pair of silver tongs to place 3 of the honey-coated grapes on your plate. They look beautiful, like little works of art. You pick one up. The honey shell is hard and cracks with a tiny sound as you bite into it. Then, an explosion of intense sweetness, followed by the cool, liquid burst of the grape inside. The first one is not bad. The pure sugar hits your system with an immediate jolt. It's a rush, a spike of pure energy that your weary body craves. You feel a momentary lift, a flicker of something that almost feels like pleasure. So you eat the second one. The sugar rush intensifies. It's almost too much. The sweetness is no longer a pleasant flavor. It's an aggressive, cloying coating that blankets your entire tongue. Your teeth ache. You look at the third grape on your plate. It no longer looks like a jewel. It looks like a threat. You eat it anyway. You have to. The wave of sugar hits your empty stomach and your bloodstream with the force of a tidal wave. You feel a sudden, dizzying lightheadedness. Your heart rate seems to speed up. The room, which was already warm, now feels suffocatingly hot. This is a sugar crash in reverse. A violent, upward surge of energy that feels unstable and deeply unpleasant. This intense Roman sweet tooth is a fascinating subject for food historians, lacking refined cane sugar, which wouldn't become common in Europe for more than 1,000 years. They relied almost entirely on honey. Honey was their sweetener, their preservative, and their status symbol. The best honey, from places like Mount Hymettus in Greece, was incredibly expensive. To serve desserts this drenched in honey was yet another way for Gaius to broadcast his wealth. He wasn't just serving you cake, he was serving you liquid gold. And they did have some strange ideas about it. The philosopher Pliny the Elder wrote that honey was a substance that was engendered from the air, a kind of celestial dew that the bees merely collected. So in a way, eating this mountain of honey was like consuming the sky itself. A beautiful thought that does nothing to alleviate the sickly feeling now spreading through you. You look across at your fellow guests. Some are tucking into the desserts with a renewed, almost frantic energy. The sugar is hitting them, too, providing a full second wind. Others, like Livia, are picking at a single baked fig with the careful precision of a bomb disposal expert. She catches your eye and gives a subtle shake of her head. Pace yourself. This is a different kind of enemy. You take a large gulp of wine to try and cut through the sweetness, but it's a mistake. The combination of the strong wine and the pure sugar is dizzying. The room seems to waver slightly at the edges. The conversation around you blurs into a meaningless drone. Your body is now dealing with two powerful, competing chemical assaults, a flood of alcohol and a massive insulin spike. The mountain of honey sits on the serving tables, a glistening, unconical peak, and you, having just barely survived the savory foothills, are now lost in a sticky, sweet avalanche at its base. The hollow relief you felt after your trip to the back room is gone, replaced by a new kind of fullness agitory, saccharine, and deeply nauseating distress. The prison has been rebuilt, but this time, the bars are made of sugar. The sugar rush is a false dawn, a brief, manic flare of energy before a deeper exhaustion sets in. The wine, however, is a more persistent and treacherous companion. With your stomach first empty and now filled with a volatile mixture of honey and alcohol, the effects of the drink are amplified to a dangerous degree. The civilized 1-to-3 ratio of the appetizer course is a distant memory. The cups are now being filled with a much stronger brew, and the servants are pouring with a heavy, insistent hand. The atmosphere in the triclinium has shifted. The polite, measured conversation of the early evening has frayed at the edges. The volume is louder, the laughter more forced and explosive. A senator on the high couch is telling a story, his words soaring slightly, his gestures becoming wide and clumsy. The masks of sober dignity are beginning to slip, revealing the flushed, sweaty faces beneath. For you, the wine is no longer a social lubricant, it's a poison. Each sip you take to wash down the cloying sweetness of the dessert sends a fresh wave of dizzying warmth through your body. The room, once a stable, solid space, now seems to have a gentle, nauseating sway, like the deck of a ship in a slow swirl. The flickering torchlight fractures and splits, the flames dancing in your unsteady vision. You feel a profound sense of disorientation. The anchor of your physical well-being has been cut. You are adrift in a sea of sensory overload. The noise, the heat, the thick, sweet air, the constant pressure to perform. The wine, instead of dulling the misery, is sharpening it, making you acutely aware of your own discomfort. This brings us to one of the most interesting undebated aspects of Roman drinking: the deliberate pursuit of different states of intoxication. They had words for it. They knew the pleasant, creative buzz that came from the first few cups. They also knew the maudlin, sentimental state that came after, and the aggressive, angry state that could follow. A good host, a symposia RCH, was supposed to steer the drinking like a skilled pilot, keeping the party in the safe, pleasant waters of moderate inebriation. But Gaius is not a good pilot. He is a saboteur. He is pushing the ship towards the rocks. This is not about collective pleasure. It's about breaking down his guests, making them lose their inhibitions, their composure. A drunk man might reveal a useful political secret. A drunk man might agree to a bad deal. A drunk man is easier to dominate. The wine is not a beverage. It's a two-love social interrogation. You try to manage it. You hold your cup but don't drink. You bring it to your lips but only pretend to sip. But the servants are relentless. They are trained to see an empty or half-empty cup as a failure on their part. A servant approaches your couch, his eyes on your cup, Before you can wave him away, he has topped it up, the dark red liquid splashing near the rim. The host wishes all his guests to be joyful. The servant murmurs, a polite but unbreakable command. You look at Livia. She has her cup cradled in her hands, but she is staring into the middle distance, her expression blank. She is retreating inward, building a wall of stoic indifference against the rising tide of alcohol. The young poet, on the other hand, has been completely submerged. He is now engaged in a loud, one-sided argument with the guest opposite him about the merits of a particular type of poetic meter. His face is blotchy, and a small fleck of spittle is visible at the corner of his mouth. He is a casualty of the evening, a willing victim of the treacherous wine. You risk a small sip. The taste is now harsh and acidic. It does nothing to quench your thirst, which has become a dry, rasping need in the back of your throat. Your body is screaming for water, for simple, plain, unadulterated water. But water is no longer on the menu. There is only wine. You feel a growing sense of paranoia. The conversations around you seem to have a hidden, menacing edge. Is that senator laughing with you, or at you? Did your husband's glance linger a moment too long? A silent criticism of your flagging performance. The wine strips away the protective layers of social confidence, leaving your nerves raw and exposed. This state of heightened, drunken misery was not unknown to the Romans. In fact, they had a specific term for the hangover, crapula. It's a wonderfully onomatopoeic word that captures the sick, heavy feeling of the morning after. And it's a state they seem to both court and despise. Medical writers like Celsus offered all sorts of hangover cures, from drinking more wine, the hair of the dog, an ancient concept, to consuming pungent foods like cabbage, which was believed to counteract the effects of alcohol. But here, in the midst of the storm, there is no cure. There is only the relentless downpour. You set your cup down, a little too hard, and a bit of the red wine slops onto the white marble of the side table. It looks like a drop of blood, a dark, ominous stain on the pristine surface. You stare at it, mesmerized. It feels like a symbol of your own internal state, a messy, uncontrolled spill in a world that demands perfection. The wine has turned. It is no longer a friend, no longer a source of courage or cheer. It is the enemy. It is the agent of your unraveling. And as another cheerless toast is called, and you are forced to raise your cup once more, you feel a profound sense of being trapped, not just by the social rules, but by the very chemistry of the evening. Each sip is another nail in the coffin of your composure. The evening wears on, a slow, grinding passage of time measured in emptied wine cups and forced smiles. The initial, frantic energy of the sugar rush has long since dissipated, leaving a landscape of weary, alcohol-soaked exhaustion in its wake. And it is in this landscape that you start to see the truth. The carefully constructed masks, which were so firmly in place just hours ago, are now slipping, not just on you, but on everyone. The performance of joy has become a grueling, transparent farce, and for the first time, you can see the weary, miserable actors underneath the costumes. You look across at the lectus medius, the middle couch, where the more important men are reclining. A portly senator, a man known for his booming speeches in the forum, is now slumped against his cushions. His toga, once a symbol of crisp, white authority, is now slightly askew, a wine stain blooming on the fabric near his shoulder. His eyes are glassy and unfocused. H.E.S. listening to the man next to him, but his head is bobbing in a slow, rhythmic motion, a silent battle against the pull of a drunken stupor. He is no longer a powerful orator. He is just a tired, overfed man who has had too much to drink. The host, Gaius, is one of the few who seems immune. He has been drinking, but his sips are small, his movements still precise. He is the sober spider in the center of a web of inebriation. He watches the scene, his expression a mixture of satisfaction and contempt. This is what he wanted. This is the desired outcome. His guests, stripped of their public personas, reduced to their most basic, clumsy selves. Your gaze drifts back to your own couch. Livia is still in her state of quiet retreat. But you can see the tension in her jaw, the tight grip of her hand on her cup. Her serene mask is a feat of pure willpower. And you can see the immense effort it is costing her. The young poet has finally succumbed. He has passed from argumentative to maudlin and is now quietly weeping into his wine, murmuring about a lost love or a poorly received doe, into pathetic sight. But the most profound recognition comes when you look at the faces of the other wives. A woman on the far couch, whose name you can't remember, catches your eye for a brief second. For a fleeting moment, her face is stripped of all artifice. There is no smile, no polite interest. There is only a vast, bottomless weariness. It is a look of pure, unadulterated misery, and in her eyes, you see a perfect, shattering reflection of your own soul. In that moment, the isolation you felt all evening dissolved. You are not alone in your suffering. You are all in the same gilded cage. Every woman in this room is fighting the same battle against the food, against the wine, against the crushing weight of expectation. You are all wearing the same heavy armor of silk and jewels, all sporting the same aching, elaborate hairstyles, all forcing the same tired smiles. This shared, unspoken misery is a strange and fascinating aspect of elite Roman female society, one that historians can only glimpse through the cracks in the male-dominated historical record. The letters of women, the funerary inscriptions they wrote for each other, hint at deep bonds of friendship and support. Did moments like this, these shared ordeals, forge a kind of silent solidarity? Did you and that woman across the room, with that one fleeting glance, form a temporary, unspoken alliance against the absurdity of it all? It's a question that can never be answered, but, in this moment, it feels true. You are all prisoners here, and you have just recognized your fellow inmates. The mask slips further. You notice the small, telling details you were too preoccupied to see before. The way a guest discreetly tries to massage his bloated stomach under the cover of his toga. The faint, greenish pallor on the face of a young man who is trying very hard to pretend he is enjoying the terrible poetry being recited. The almost universal sigh of relief that ripples through the room when a particularly heavy dish is finally cleared away. You realize that the entire evening has been a collective lie. No one is enjoying this. Not really. The pleasure is not the point. The point is the entrance. The point is to survive the host's suffocating generosity and to live to tell the tale. Or rather, to live to pretend it was the most delightful evening imaginable. You feel a strange sense of clarity amidst the alcoholic haze. The feast is not a celebration. It is a power play. And the currency of that power is discomfort. The more discomfort Gaius can inflict upon his guests while disguising it as lavish hospitality, the more powerful he is. He is not fading you. He is conquering you, one course at a time. And the greatest trick, the most insidious part of it all, is that you are all willing participants. You walked into this prison of your own free will. You put on the mask. You ate the food. You drank the wine. You are both victim and accomplice. A new course of nuts and salted chickpeas is brought out, meant to encourage more drinking. A servant offers you the bowl. You look at the small, innocent-looking nuts, and you feel a flicker of something new. Not just misery, not just exhaustion, but a slow-burning ember of rage. The mask of polite enjoyment has not just slipped, it has shattered. And looking around at the pale, pained faces of your fellow guests, you know you are not the only one whose pieces are lying on the floor. Just when you believe the ordeal might finally be winding down, that the last of the food has been served and you can begin the slow, mental preparation for escape, the host, Gaius, claps his hands together. The sound is sharp and commanding, cutting through the drunken haze of the room. And now, he proclaims, his voice booming with false cheer, for a little bum for the soul. Some light entertainment to aid our digestion. A collective, internal groan seems to pass through the guests. This is, in some ways, the crudest part of the evening. The feast is not just a gustatory trial. It is a cultural one as well. After hours of being physically force-fed, you will now be intellectually force-fed. A space is cleared in the center of the room. The first act is the young poet you were sitting next to. He is roused from his weeping stupor by a none too gentle nudge from a slave. He stumbles to his feet. Unsteady, his face pale and blotchy, he clutches a small scroll of papiers in his trembling hand. He is about to perform. This was a common feature of Roman dinner parties. The host would provide entertainment, or spectacular, for his guests. This could range from acrobats and musicians to a reading by a famous historian. It was another way to display one's culture and wealth. A particularly extravagant host might even stage a small gladiatorial fight, though this was rare and considered quite scandalous for a private home. The poet begins to read. His chosen work is an epic ode to a mythical battle between a Lopith and a centaur. His voice is reedy and monotonous, his words slurring together. He has clearly had far too much wine to be a competent performer. The complex, flowery Latin, which might have been impressive under other circumstances, is now just a meaningless drone. This is the tyranny of entertainment. You are a captive audience. You cannot talk amongst yourselves. You cannot get up and leave. You must recline on your uncomfortable couch, your stomach awaken, your head swimming with wine. And you must pretend to be utterly captivated by this terrible, drunken recitation. Your eyes glaze over. The poet's words wash over you, a river of incomprehensible syllables. You focus on a crack in the ceiling plaster to keep from closing your eyes entirely. To fall asleep would be the ultimate insult to the host and his chosen entertainer. You have to maintain a posture of attentive appreciation. You nod occasionally, as if struck by a particularly clever turn of phrase. You fix a look of thoughtful concentration on your face. It is, in its own way, as exhausting as eating the peacock. And this raises a rather funny historical question. Was any of this entertainment actually any good? We read the works of the great Roman poets like Virgil and Horace and assume that all literary endeavors were of that quality. But for every Virgil, there were 1,000 hacks like the young man currently stumbling through his ode. Satirists like Martial and Juvenal are full of complaints about terrible poets who corner you at the bazaar. Even worse, get invited to dinner and insist on reading their latest work. It's highly likely that a great deal of the entertainment at these feasts was, to put it mildly, mind-numbing. The poet finally, mercifully, finishes his ode. He looks up, expecting applause. What he gets is a smattering of polite, drunken clapping. Gaius claps the loudest. The hollow, booming sound. Brilliant, he shouts. A true artist. The poet, placated, stumbles back to his couch and promptly passes out. But the torture is not over. Next, a trio of musicians is brought in. A man with a lyre, a woman with a small harp, and a man playing the tibia, a double-reeded pipe that produces a shrill, penetrating sound not unlike a modern oboe. They begin to play. The music is loud, dissonant, and seems to follow no discernible melody. The high-pitched shriek of the tibia is particularly grating. A sharp, buzzing sound that seems to drill directly into your wine-addled brain. You close your eyes for a moment, the sound of physical assault. This isn't a soothing backdrop. It's an invasive, demanding noise. It's another layer of sensation to be endured. Another test of your fortitude. You look at your husband, Marcus. Even he, a master of stoic endurance, looks strained. He has a pained, fixed smile on his face as he stares at the musicians. A man heroically pretending that the sonic assault he is enduring is, in fact, a delightful melody. The music goes on, and on. There is no escape. You are trapped in your seat, pinned down by social convention, forced to listen to this caterwauling while your body silently screams in protest. The food was a prison for your stomach. The wine was a prison for your mind. And now, This music is a prison for your ears. You think back to the relative peace of the early evening, the quiet anticipation. It seems like a lifetime ago. The feast has systematically dismantled you, breaking you down physically, mentally, and now orally. It is a comprehensive and masterfully executed campaign of attrition. The host has not just fed his guests, he has subdued them, leaving them in a state of weary, helpless submission. And as the tibia player takes a deep breath to unleash another surpassing cascade of notes, you realize that is, and always has been, the entire point. The dreadful music finally fades. The last note of the tibia hanging in the air for a moment before dissolving into the drunken murmur of the room. There is another round of polite, exhausted applause. You feel a sliver of hope that this might be the end. The final act of this marathon of torment. You are, of course, wrong. As the musicians retreat, you are left in a state of weary, contemplative silence. Your mind, dulled by wine and sensory overload, begins to drift. You look at the scene around you, the stained gas, the half-empty wine cups, the discarded nuts and fruit pits that litter the small tables. And for the first time, you begin to think about the cost, not the social cost, not the physical toll on your own body, but the sheer, staggering, material price of this single evening. You look at the heavy silver platters the servants are now clearing away. Silver, mined by slaves in the rocky hills of Spain, hauled across the sea, and then worked by skilled artisans in the city. You think of your cup, the one made of dark blue glass with silver leaf. Glass made from sand and soda ash, a technology perfected in the workshops of Syria and Egypt, then shipped across the treacherous Mediterranean. And the food, oh, the food. You begin to mentally catalogue the geography of your meal. The invisible map of empire that was served on your plate, the olives from Spain, the cheese from Gaul, the wines from the vineyards of Campania, right here in Italy, the honey, perhaps, from the hills of Greece, the pepper that dusted your egg, a fantastically expensive spice that traveled thousands of miles along the Silk Road, passing through countless merchants' hands, its price doubling at every stop, all to end up as a faint dusting on your appetizer. You think of the peacock, a bird native to India, brought to the Greek islands and then to Rome, raised at enormous expense. You think of the flamingo tongues. The birds themselves likely came from the marshlands of Egypt, hunted and shipped live in crates. And for what? For a tiny morsel of flesh. The rest of the magnificent bird discarded. The sheer, breathtaking waste of it is hard to comprehend. This brings up a fascinating area of study for historians and economists. The logistics of the Roman Empire. How did they pull this off? How did they create a system so vast and complex that a man like Gaius could, on a whim, decide to serve his guests a dish made from the tongues of African birds, the spices of Asia, and the fish of the Atlantic? The answer is a marvel of infrastructure and a nightmare of human labor. It was a system built on paved roads, massive cargo ships, and a ruthlessly efficient bureaucracy. And it was all powered by the sweat and toil of millions of people you will never see. The farmers who grew the wheat, the sailors who risked their lives on the sea, the dockworkers who unloaded the amphory of wine and oil, and, of course, the slaves. Slaves everywhere. The slaves who mined the silver, the slaves who harvested the grapes, the slaves who cooked the meal in Gaius' sweltering kitchens. The handsome young men who serve you, their faces blank and impulsive. The old man in the secret room, whose entire job is to clean up the consequences of this excess. You try to calculate the cost in your head. The food, the wine, the army of servants, the musicians, the poet, who was probably paid, however poorly, the imported decorations, the sheer cost of lighting this enormous room for one night. The number is astronomical. It would be enough to feed a poor family for a decade. It is a sum that could buy a small farm, or bribe a minor official, or fund a modest public building, and Gaius has spent it all on this, on one night. on this performance of power disguised as a party. The price of a single bite of that honeyed grape is not just the cost of the grape and the honey. It is the cost of the entire imperial machine that brought it to your plate. It is a bite that tastes of slave labor, of dangerous sea voyages, of political corruption, and of a level of wealth so vast it has become completely detached from reality. You look at Gaius, reclining on his couch. He is not just a host, he is a vortex, a black hole of consumption, pulling in the resources of the entire known world to fuel his ego for a few hours. And you, and all the other guests, are caught in his orbit. You are here to witness the spectacle, to validate the expense. Your presence is the final, necessary ingredient that gives this whole grotesque recipe its meaning. The thought is profoundly sobering, cutting through the alcoholic fog. The feast is not just a personal ordeal. It is a symptom of a much larger sickness. It is the endpoint of a system of extraction and exploitation. A system that has produced this moment of supreme, glittering, and utterly rotten opulence. And you are right in the heart of it, a participant in the grand, wasteful theater of empire. The single bite was never just a bite. It was the whole world. The night has finally begun to fray and dissolve. The last of the nuts have been eaten or ignored. The final, obligatory cups of wine have been poured. A sense of weary finality hangs in the air, as thick as the smoke from the guttering torches. The entertainment has concluded. The food is gone, and the guests are no longer drunk in a festive way, but in a tired, headachy, miserable way. It is time for this performance to end. But the evening does not simply stop. It concludes, like everything else, with a ritual, and that ritual is dictated entirely by the host. No one can leave until Gaius gives the signal. To do so would be the gravest of insults, an unforgivable breach of protocol. So you all wait, trapped in a state of suspended animation, for the warden to unlock the gates. Gaius Sulpicius Mesa slowly pushes himself up from his reclining position. It's the first time all evening he has been close to sitting upright. He hasn't eaten much. You realize that now. He took a small taste of the finest dishes, a symbolic bite to show his appreciation for his own wealth. But he did not gorge himself. He did not need to. His power does not come from consumption, but from watching others consume. He has remained the sober, calculating master of ceremonies throughout. He surveys the room. His gaze moves slowly from couch to couch, from guest to guest. It is not the warm, friendly gaze of a host bidding his friends farewell. It is a look of inspection. It's the look of a farmer checking on his livestock after a day of fattening them up. He is assessing the damage. He is tallying his victory. His eyes linger for a moment on the senator, who is now openly snoring, his mouth agape. A flicker of contempt crosses Gaius's face. He looks at the weeping poet, now being discreetly propped up by two slaves, and his lip curls in a faint sneer. He sees the wine stains, the slumped postures, the glazed, exhausted eyes. He sees a room full of the most powerful people in Rome, all of them reduced to a state of messy and dignified depletion, and he is pleased. This is the proof of his success. The room is a battlefield, and he is the undisputed conqueror. This dynamic, the power of the host over his guests, is a recurring theme in Roman literature. Writers like Petronius, in his famous Satyricon, paint a vivid picture of the anxieties of being a guest at a powerful man's table. You had to laugh at his jokes, praise his terrible food, and endure his boring stories. The feast was a microcosm of the Roman social hierarchy, a world of patrons and clients, where favor was currency and a dinner invitation was a tool of control. Historians still debate how much of this was satirical exaggeration and how much was a reflection of reality. But looking at Gaius's smug, appraising face, you have no doubt that, for tonight at least, the satire was spot on. His gaze finally falls on you. You meet it head-on, your expression carefully neutral. You have survived. You did not pass out. You did not weep. You did not make a fool of yourself. You played the game. You endured the ordeal. You even navigated the secret, shameful ritual in the back room and returned to your post. In the silent, brutal calculus of this evening, you are not one of the vanquished. You are a survivor. There is a strange, bitter pride in that. Gaius gives you a slow, deliberate nod. It is a nod of acknowledgement, of respect, perhaps, or maybe it's just the look a general gives to a worthy, defeated opponent. He then raises his cup, which is still half full. My friends, he says, his voice once again booming across the room. The hour grows late, and the stars call us to our rest. I thank you for honoring my humble home with your presence. May your journeys be safe and your sleep be sound. It is the signal, the benediction, the release. A collective, almost silent sigh of relief passes through the room. The tension that has held you all captive for hours finally breaks. Slowly, stiffly, the guests begin to stir. They push themselves up from the couches, their movements clumsy and sore. The spell is broken. Slaves appear as if from nowhere, carrying the sandals that were taken from you hours ago. The young Syrian boy from the beginning of the evening finds you and kneels to lace your gold-strapped sandals onto your feet. The simple act of putting on shoes feels like a promise of escape, the first step towards freedom. People begin to move towards the exit. Their farewells to the host brief and mumbled. A magnificent evening. Gaius, unforgettable. You honor us all. The lies continue. The final, reflexive twitches of the performance. You and your husband join the slow, shuffling procession out of the triclinium. You do not look back. There is nothing there you ever want to see again. You walk back down the long, colonnaded corridor, your feet treading once more on the mosaic of the unswept floor. It no longer seems clever. It just seems like a picture of the mess you are leaving behind. The final inspection is over. You have been graded, judged, and finally, dismissed. You step out from the oppressive warmth of the villa into the cool, dark air of the Roman night. The relief is immediate and profound. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with air that doesn't smell of wine, perfume, and roasted meat. It's the familiar, filthy air of the city, thick with smoke and refuse. But right now, it smells like freedom. The entrance to the villa, which was a blaze of intimidating light when you arrived, is now quieter. Many of the torches have burned down to smoking stubs. The scene is one of organized chaos as guests retrieve their litters and summon their slaves for the journey home. The grim-faced Gallic guards are still there, their presence a final reminder of the host's power. Your own litter-bearers are waiting, their faces impassive in the flickering light. They have been here for hours, sleeping on the hard pavement or gambling with other servants, waiting for this moment. You and Marcus climb into the Lect ICA. This time, you don't bother with the graceful, careful movements of your arrival. You collapse onto the cushions, your body screaming with a chorus of aches and pains. Your head throbs, your stomach is a queasy, unsettled sea. Your scalp aches from the weight of your hairpins. Marcus, for his part, is silent, his face a grim mask of exhaustion and too much wine. The curtains are drawn, and the 4 slaves lift the litter onto their shoulders. The journey home begins. The familiar swaying motion now feeling less like a gentle rock and more like a nauseating torment. The litter, which on the way he felt like a bubble of privilege, a shield against the city, now feels like a cage. It's a small, dark, swaying prison for your aching body. The saffron-colored curtains, once a symbol of your status, now just serve to trap you in the small, stale space with your own misery and your silent, equally miserable husband. You lean your head back against the cushions and close your eyes, but there is no escape. The events of the evening play back in your mind, not as a coherent memory, but as a series of jarring sensory impressions. The sight of the peacock, grotesquely ray-feathered, the overpowering smell of the garum, the slimy texture of the oyster, the cloying sweetness of the honeyed grape, the shrill, piercing sound of the tibia. It's a phantom feast, and it's still going on inside your head. The journey through the city is different now. It is much later. The streets are quieter, emptier. The boisterous crowds have thinned, replaced by the occasional stray dog or a stumbling drunkard making his way home. The silence is punctuated by the rhythmic tramp of your bearer's feet and the distant sound of a baby crying from a high window in a dark insula. The darkness of the streets brings its own kind of danger. While the major thoroughfares might be lit by the occasional torch outside a wealthy home, most of Rome is plunged into absolute blackness after sunset. This is a historical detail that is easy to forget. For most people, the ancient world was incredibly dark. The fear of what lurked in the shadows, muggers, drunken soldiers, or just a deep, sewage-filled pothole was very real. Your litter, carried by 4 strong men and announced by a slave walking ahead with a lamp, is a fortress against the terrors of the night. But tonight, you feel no safer inside it than you would outside. The true danger is the one you carry within you. You risk a glance at Marcus. His eyes are closed, his brow furrowed. He is likely calculating the political cost and benefit of the evening. Did he make a new ally? Did he offend someone? Was his attendance noted by the right people? For him, the physical ordeal was just the price of doing business in the ruthless marketplace of Roman politics. The feast was work, a particularly unpleasant and degrading form of work, but work nonetheless. This raises a question that social historians often ponder. Did anyone, even the host, actually enjoy these events in the way we think of enjoyment today? Or was pleasure an entirely secondary concern? Perhaps the goal was not happiness, but a different set of satisfactions. The satisfaction of displaying power, of cementing alliances, of fulfilling social obligations, of simply enduring. From that perspective, maybe Marcus does feel a grim sense of accomplishment. He survived. He did his duty. You feel no such satisfaction. You just feel sick. Sick and exhausted. The swaying of the litter is relentless. Every lurch and tilt sends a fresh wave of queasiness through you. You press a hand against your stomach, trying to will it into submission. The cage sways on, carrying you through the dark, sweeping city. Finally, you feel the motion change. The bearers slow their pace, their steps more measured. You have reached your own quiet street. The litter is brought to a gentle halt before the gates of your villa. The journey is over. A servant opens the litter's curtain. You are home. You have returned from the war. But the battle isn't over. The worst part, the quiet accounting with your own abused body, is yet to come. You take your husband's hand, a cold, limp formality, and step out of the swaying cage, back into the fragile sanctuary of your own home. You pass through the familiar entrance of your own home. The quiet of the atrium, a stark contrast to the echoing grandeur of Gaius' villa. The air here is cool and clean, smelling only of stone and the faint, lingering scent of jasmine from the courtyard. It is a sanctuary, but it offers little comfort tonight. Your husband, Marcus, mutters a gruff good night, and disappears into his own suite of rooms without a backward glance. There is no shared moment of debriefing. No, can you believe what a terrible time that was? The performance of being a married couple, a united front, ended the moment you step back across your own threshold. You are now left alone with the consequences of the evening. Leia is waiting for you in your cubiculum. A single oil lamp casting a soft, gentle glow. Doria, the younger maid, is asleep on a small mat in the corner. Elwira's face is calm and composed, but you see a flicker of concern in her eyes as she takes in your appearance. She sees the exhaustion that lies beneath the carefully applied powder, the slight tremor in your hands, the way you hold yourself as if you are made of fragile glass. The process of deconstruction begins. It is the reverse of the ritual that took place hours earlier, but it is much slower, more tender. First, the jewelry. Elwira is cool. Nimble fingers unfasten the heavy gold necklace. The relief as its weight is lifted from your neck is immense. She slides the golden serpents from your arms. their ruby eyes seeming to dim as they are placed back in their velvet-lined box. Each piece removed is a shackle unlocked. Next is the most agonizing part. Your hair. The Ornotrix built a fortress on your head, and now Lyra must carefully dismantle it. Pin by painful pin, there are dozens of them. Long shafts of sharpened bone and bronze. Lyra works with a slow, practiced patience, her touch gentle, trying not to pull. With each pin she removes, you feel a small release of tension from your scalp. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, the last pin is out. The false braids, the trophies of conquered German women, are removed and set aside. Your own hair, crimped and strained, tumbles down over your shoulders. The freedom is so profound it's almost painful. You slowly massage your scalp, feeling the blood return to the protesting follicles. Then, the clothes, the magnificent Alfenstole, now slightly stained and smelling faintly of sweat and spilled wine, is unpinned and lifted over your head. The simple linen undertunic follows. You are left standing in the warm air of the room, stripped of your armor, vulnerable and pale. Lyra hands you a soft linen cloth and a bowl of warm water mixed with oil. You begin the slow process of wiping away the mask you've worn all night. The white lead powder comes off in ghostly streaks, revealing your own skin beneath. You scrub at the red ochre on your lips and cheeks, the soot on your eyebrows. You catch a glimpse of yourself in the polished bronze mirror. The reflection is a cruel shock. The woman staring back at you is a stranger, a pale, haunted creature with dark circles under her eyes that the makeup had hidden. Her face is puffy from the wine and salt. Her lips are pale. Her hair is a wild, disheveled mess. She looks ravaged. She is the ruin of the beautiful creature who left this room hours ago. This is a side of Roman life that the statues and grand histories never show you. They show the power, the glory, the perfect marble profiles. They don't show this. They don't show the morning after, the human cost of the spectacle. They don't show the woman staring at her own wrecked reflection, wondering if the performance was worth the price. This moment of confronting one's own reflection is a powerful, timeless human experience, but it has a particular resonance here. In a society so obsessed with image, with the imago of the ancestors and the carefully crafted public persona, what did it mean to be confronted with this private, unglamorous reality? This is a question historians of the self and the body grapple with. Did you see this reflection as your true self, and the armored woman as the fake one? Or was the armored woman the real you, the public you, and this tired, broken creature in the mirror just a temporary state of disrepair? The answer is likely complex, shifting from day to day, from feast to feast. Lyra seems to understand. She quietly takes the dirty cloth from your hand and helps you into a simple, loose nightgown of soft, worn wool. It's the most comfortable thing you have ever felt in your life. You sit on the edge of your bed, the mattress stuffed with soft flocking. You are exhausted, down to your very bones, but you know sleep will not come easily. Your body is still a battleground. Your stomach is a queasy, unsettled pit. Your head is filled with a low, persistent hum. Lyra brings you a cup of cool water, not snow water, not perfumed water, just plain, clean, beautiful water. You drink it greedily. It is the most luxurious thing you have tasted all night. She then quietly extinguishes the lamp, leaving the room in a deep, comforting darkness, broken only by a sliver of moonlight from the high window. Rest now, Dormida, she whispers, and her footsteps are silent as she leaves the room, closing the door softly behind her. You are alone in the dark. The house is silent. You lie back on the bed. The reality of your reflection burned into your mind. The feast is over. The armor is off. The mask is gone, and all that is left is you, and the ghost of the feast, which will haunt you long into the next day. Sleep, when it finally comes, is not a peaceful refuge. It's a shallow, restless sea, and you are tossed on its waves for what feels like an eternity. You dream in flavors and smells, a nightmare of endlessly tough peacock meat, of drowning in a vat of honey, of the shrill, inescapable shriek of the tibia. You wake up several times, your heart pounding, a sour taste in your mouth, when the first pale light of dawn filters into your cubiculum. It feels less like a new day and more like a continuation of the same long, punishing night. You push yourself into a sitting position, and a wave of dull, throbbing pain washes over you. Your head feels like it's packed with wet sand. Your neck and shoulders are stiff from the hours spent reclining in that unnatural position. But the worst part, the most persistent and foul reminder of the ordeal, is the taste in your mouth. It's a ghost on your tongue, a phantom of the feast. It's a complex, horrifying flavor that is somehow all the things you ate, all at once. It's the lingering, funky salt of the garum, the cloying, sickly sweetness of the honey, the greasy memory of the roasted meats, and the sour, fermented ghost of too much wine. It's a taste that opened water cannot wash away. It's the residue of the evening, a vile souvenir your body has kept for you. You swing your legs out of bed, your stomach churns in protest. You feel dehydrated, weak, and profoundly unwell. This is the crapula, the Roman hangover, in all its inglorious reality. Lyra enters with the morning light, her movements as quiet and efficient as ever. She sees the state you are in and knows immediately what is required. She doesn't bring you food. The very thought of food is enough to make your stomach clench. Instead, she brings you a small cup containing a murky, pungent liquid. What is it? You croak, your voice hoarse. tea is an ear of cabbage and mint, she says. Pliny writes that it cleanses the system of the ill effects of wine. This is a wonderful little slice of Roman life. In the absence of modern medicine, they relied on a vast and complex body of folk remedies, many of which were collected and written down by authors like Pliny the Elder in his Natural History. This enormous work is a treasure trove of ancient beliefs, containing remedies for everything from headaches to snake bites. Was this cabbage and mint concoction effective? Almost certainly not, in a chemical sense. But the placebo effect, the comfort of a trusted ritual, is a powerful medicine in itself. Historians who study ancient medicine are fascinated by this intersection of science, superstition, and practical care. You drink the strange brew. It tastes about as pleasant as it sounds, but you drink it all the same. It's an action, a ritual to mark the beginning of recovery. You spend the morning in a state of quiet, fragile convalescence. You don't get dressed in fine clothes. You stay in your simple wool tunic. You don't have your hair done. You tie it back loosely with a simple ribbon. You walk slowly into your private courtyard, the one where this whole ordeal began with the arrival of the wax tablet. The morning air is cool and fresh. The jasmine smells sweet again, not sickly. You sit, not even reclining, on a stone bench in the sun, letting its warmth soak into your aching bones. You have no duties today. This is another unspoken privilege of your class. The day after a major feast was a write-off, a recognized recovery period. No one would expect you to pay social calls or manage household affairs. The city could run itself without you for one day. But even in the peace of your own garden, the ghost of the feast lingers. You feel a profound sense of physical corruption, as if the excess of the night before has somehow seeped into your very being. You feel sluggish, heavy, and unclean from the inside out. And you think about the cycle. This was not a unique event. In a few weeks, or perhaps a month, another wax tablet will arrive, another invitation will be accepted, and you will have to do this all over again. You will build the armor. You will eat the food. You will drink the wine. You will enjoy the entertainment. You will visit the little room with the feather. And you will wake up the next day feeling exactly like this. This cyclical nature of elite social life is something historians often emphasize. It was a relentless calendar of festivals, obligations, and rituals. Life was not a straight line, but a repeating pattern. For you, this pattern is a series of glittering prisms. each one leaving you more exhausted than the last. You close your eyes. The sun warm on your eyelids. The ghost on your tongue is beginning to fade, replaced by the clean, sharp taste of the mint from Lyra's tea is an E. The worst of the crapule is passing, but the memory remains, the memory of the performance, the degradation, and the profound, wasteful absurdity of it all. It's a memory that tastes of peacock and lies, and you know, with a wary certainty, that it's a taste you will be forced to acquire, again and again and again. Days pass. The physical residue of the feast, the headache, the nausea, the exhaustion fades away. Your body, resilient and miraculous, recovers. The ghost on your tongue is finally banished. Life returns to its normal rhythms. You oversee the household. You receive visitors. You walk in your garden. The memory of gay a smacker's dinner party begins to feel like a strange, unpleasant dream. And then, about a week later, you are walking through the market with Lyra. It's a rare outing for you. A small taste of the chaotic, vibrant life of the city beyond your villa walls. The air is a cacophony of smells: baking bread, ripe melons, the sharp tang of cheap wine from a tavern, the dust of the street. It's real. It's alive. You pass a fishmonger's stall. The vendor, a man with a booming voice and arms stained with fish scales, is holding up a large, silvery mackerel, proclaiming its freshness to the crowd. And as the strong, salty, fishy smell hits you, you are instantly transported. You are no longer in the crowded, sunlit market. You are back in the triclinium. You are on the couch, the air thick with perfume and torchlight. You can feel the weight of the jewelry on your skin, the ache in your scalp. You can taste the overpowering, fermented funk of the garum. Your stomach gives a sudden, violent lurch, a phantom echo of the nausea you felt that night. The sensation is so powerful, so real, that you physically recoil. You stumble back a step, your hand flying to your mouth. Lyra is at your side in an instant, her hand steady on your arm. Domina, are you all right? You stare at the fish, at the source of the smell, and a profound, final understanding settles over you. The prison was not the villa. The prison was not the couch. The prison was not even the feast itself. The prison is your own body. It is your own memory. The ordeal has imprinted itself upon you, created a trigger, a sensory key that can unlock the cage of that experience at any moment. You realize that Gaius did more than just feed you. He conditioned you. He created an association in your mind, and in your very flesh, between a simple, everyday smell and a feeling of profound sickness and degradation. It's a form of control that extends far beyond the walls of his home, a psychological chain that he has attached to you without you even realizing it. This is the true nature of the prison of plenty. It's not just about the moment of consumption. It's about the aftermath. It's about how the excess corrupts not just your health, but your relationship with the world. It takes a simple, honest thing, the smell of fish, and turns it into a source of anxiety and disgust. It shrinks your world, pollutes your senses. In that moment of nauseating revelation, you understand the feast for what it truly was. It wasn't a celebration of abundance. It was a weaponization of it. Abundance, in the hands of a man like Gaius, becomes a tool to dominate, to humiliate, and to control. The relentless parade of food wasn't about sharing wealth. It was about forcing you to internalize that wealth until it made you physically sick, proving that he had more than you could possibly handle. Your body was the stage for this grotesque play, the living proof of his limitless resources and your own finite capacity. Historians often debate the decline and fall of Rome, pointing to economic factors, military overreach, or political instability, but perhaps there was another, more subtle kind of decline. A moral and psychological rot that began at the top, at feasts just like this one. A culture that becomes so obsessed with the performance of wealth that it loses all connection to genuine pleasure, to moderation, to the simple, sustaining joys of life. A society that learns to associate abundance not with gratitude, but with sickness. You turn away from the fish stall, your heart pounding. I am fine. Lira, you say, your voice strained. The sun is just a little strong today. Let's go home. As you walk away, the smell of the fish fades, and the phantom nausea recedes, but the understanding remains. Cold and hard in the pit of your stomach, you have survived the feast, but you will never truly escape it. You carry it with you, a ghost in your senses, a permanent stain on your memory. The golden invitation was a summons to your own private prison. A beautiful, opulent cage built of silk and honey and peacock feathers. And you now realize, with a chilling certainty, that you will carry a piece of that prison inside you for the rest of your days. And so, the story of that long, difficult night comes to a gentle close. The memory of the feast, with all its sound and fury, begins to soften and fade like torchlight dimming at the edge of a long corridor. The sharp edges of the story can blur now, the discomfort can melt away, leaving only the quiet of this present moment. The heavy silk of the stole becomes the weight of your own warm blanket, the endless courses become distant, nonsensical fragments of a dream you are already forgetting. You can feel a gentle quiet descending, a peace that the woman in our story so desperately craved. There is no performance required of you, no expectation to meet. There is nothing to endure, only the simple, easy act of rest. You can let go of the sights and sounds of ancient Rome, let the marble floors and echoing atriums dissolve into the soft, familiar darkness of your own room. The story has served its purpose, a winding path that has led you, hopefully, to the very edge of a deep and peaceful slumber. And if you have already drifted off, that is truly wonderful. Our journey together tonight ends here, in this quiet place. Should you need another tale to accompany you further into rest, my library of stories is always open for you. May your dreams be kind. Good night.